This is another Impossible production.
I woke up today with so much on my mind. Just trying to get by with the work today. I went to work today. Co-workers on my back. Temptations on its way. It gets hard trying to be a new me. But I know that you're there for me when times get hard. I know, if I live your way, you are not far. You was the answer, the answer to my problems, to my worries, to my fears. You will answer, will answer when I call, when I call. I went out today, so the nation just living their ways. I try to front like I'm perfect, but inside I'm still working. I'm quick to judge them with verses. I should be praying they change, but I know that you're there for me when times get hard. Said I know, if I live your way, you are not far. You was the answer to my problems, to my worries, to my fears, all my fears. You will answer, when I call, as long as I live your way, if I keep your way, you will answer, and believe in Yahusha. As long as I live your way, as long as you will always answer my call when I'm going through. And I know it's there for me when times get hard. Yahuah I know, if I live your way, you are not far. You was the answer to my problem. You hear my cry, to my worries, to my fears. You will answer, you will listen, will answer. He's always there, will answer when I call, when I call, when I call.
Always remember, Psalm 20, verse 1 through 9. He does give you according to your heart and fill all your plans. We sing our deliverance in the name of our salvation. We set up a banner, Yahuah, till all your requests. Now I know that Yahuah shall save his life. He answers him from his set apart Shemayim with the setting light of his right hand. Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we remember the name of Yahuah our Elohim. They have bowed down and fallen, but we have risen and are established. Save Yahuah, let the sovereign answer us in the day we call.
Allahu Yahuah. Yahuah will answer. Praise Yahuah. Once again, family, I want to apologize for the difficulties that we're having. It is my hope that the reception now is a bit better. I restarted my computer. I continued to get poor reception, and so hopefully now things are a little bit better on your end, or a whole lot better for that matter. Zoom continued to go out on us, but again, prayerfully things will get better as we go. Before we continue, before we go any further, we're going to open up in prayer today, giving Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem. Allahu Yahuah. And so praise Yahuah. Father, we thank and praise you because truly you are worthy. You are the Elohim that sees. You are the Elohim that hears. You are the Elohim that knows. All other mighty ones, they are mighty ones in name only, Yahuah. But you're known by your acts, by your awesome acts, by your great deeds. You're known for the preservation of your people. You are known for providing for your people. You are known for hearing the cry of your people. Abba Yahuah, you are known for seeing the condition of your people and for responding. You are known for delivering your people, for saving your people, for restoring your people, and for keeping your people. Yahuah, you are known. And so we barak you today because truly there is none like you. We praise you, Yahuah, that you see every situation and you know where we are. You know what we lack. You know, Yahuah, what we need. Father, you know the correction. You know the instruction, Father. You know the path that we take. And Yahuah, we pray that you would look upon us today, that you would look down on us, be merciful unto us, and that you would instruct us, that you would guide us. Father, Yahuah, that you would continue to reveal yourself to us. We pray, Yahuah, that you would make us more and more like you. We pray today also that you would barak this time, that your favor would be upon this fellowship, that you would barak your people. Yahuah, we are experiencing difficulties today, but there is nothing too small nor too great for you to handle. And so we cast our cares on you today. Let your word go forth unhindered, Yahuah, that we may be cleansed by your word, nourished by your word, refreshed by your word, instructed in your word, be renewed in you, Yahuah, by you. So have your way in our midst today. I pray that you would touch every household, every heart, and every ear that listens today, every household represented, every individual. Father, you know where we are. You know what we're going through. You know our struggles. You know our needs. You know our weaknesses, and you know our strengths. And so, Abba Yahuah, with that knowledge, I pray that you would give to everyone what they need and take from us what we should not have. And so, Yahuah, have your way in our lives, I pray. Do this, Abba Yahuah, in Yahusha's name. Amen. Praise Yahuah. Allahu Yahuah. Praises to Yahuah. Once again, I want to say shalom to you all, family. And I want to apologize again for the rough start. But nonetheless, we're going to continue to press forward. You know, life will always have its challenges. But you know, Yahuah has given us the strength to move and to continue to press forward. When you face challenges, the expectation is not for us to give up. He doesn't expect for you to just give up and quit. But we've got to continue to press forward, right? And so we're going to continue to do just that here today, right? Okay, Mashpaka. So we are, we're in the book of Mashali. We have lost a lot of time. We are in the book of Proverbs, and we're in chapter 26. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to start out in the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, picking up where we left off last week. And we titled, based on what we were looking at, verse 1 and 2, and in particular verse 2 from Proverbs chapter 26. I believe it was verse 2 in particular, if I recall, or was it verse 4? Give me, verse 2 last week. It led us to talking about the racial identity crisis. Racial identity crisis is what I titled that lesson on YouTube from last week. We looked at why some people may be offended. Some people are quite offended if you call them black, right? Or some of the other terminology that have been used in reference to melanated people. And we read in verse 2, it says, as a bird wanders, as a swallow flies about, so a curse without cause does not come. And so we were reflecting on that. Yahuah said that we would be a byword. We would be a byword to the nations. That's a part of the curse. And so what that means is we would be called any and everything except what we should be called. We would be a byword to the nation, right? To the nations. And so that's the result of that, so it led us to talking about the curses, and then looking at a lot of the injustices, because even though the curses came upon us because of our disobedience, the wicked certainly took their privileges, you see, and Yahuah will hold them accountable for that. Now, before we get back into our study today, before we continue in our study from the book of Mashali, chapter 26, there was a question on YouTube, and I'd like to take, I believe it's an important question. I'd like to take a moment, excuse me, family. I'd like to take a moment to address that. I'd like to take a moment to address the question that was presented. Okay, because is it still choppy, family? Am I still breaking? Whether it be on YouTube or here on Fuse, Mashpaka, does it sound like the reception is still breaking? All right. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a moment to respond to a question. It's Tuda Akuda Nitra, praises to Yahuah for that. But I want to take a moment also to answer the question from Servant of Yah. Servant of Yah asked the question on YouTube, and the question was, why do we say shalom, spelled S-H-A-L-U-M, and not shalom, or which is spelled S-H-A-L-A-M, or shalom, like you hear some people say. So why do we say shalom and not say shalom, S-H-A-L-M, or shalom, which would be spelled S-H-A, which people spell S-H-A-L-A-W-A-M, basically. Yes, you find a lot of people who say that's shalom, right? Quite a few people anyway. Now, I'm gonna respond to that question here. My eyes just caught a post that Akut Vernice just posted, and I saw that, Akut. I saw that this morning. On the headlines, yes, there is this large unity rally of white supremacist groups, but that's not, we're not to be surprised by that, because we have a Klansman in the White House, and so certainly are not to be surprised by that, and there is no question as to whether or not Donald Trump is a Klansman. His daddy was a member of the Klan, and certainly by his actions and by his behavior and by his rhetoric, we know that he is as well. So we ought not to be surprised by that, those wicked fools think that it's their time of resurgence. With that said, lest we forget, I have a date with my wife this evening. I intend to keep, and that is, I want to go see that movie Detroit. This evening, and so I'm looking forward to that. I don't want to forget. I don't ever want to forget. And I want to know what I don't know. You see what I'm saying? And so as a people, Yahuah says, for a lack of knowledge my people perish. You see, for a lack of knowledge my people perish. Some of our people don't want to know, and that's why we continue to do stupidness and to expect something that to expect things that should not be expected, you see. So yes, they call them nationalists and other things, but that's what they are. You see, there was something else I was going to say about that, but I forget what it is right now. Yeah, but they're having a big rally. Oh, by the way, there was a guy at my job yesterday. He came into the lunchroom and he said, you know, we should really, what we need, what we really need, we need a party like he's a Donald Trump supporter. He loves Donald Trump. He sings praises of Donald Trump all day long. A lot of them at my job do. But he said we need the Tea Party back. We need the Tea Party. That's what we need. We need the Tea Party back. And I said to him, the Tea Party. He said, yeah, Tea Party is a great party. We need the Tea Party back. I don't know, family, how much you know about the history of the Tea Party, but the Tea Party was a very racist party. I know that the dude is racist, even though he tried to dumb it down a little bit. But I was kind of a little bit surprised that he actually said that in the way that he did, so openly. You know, because the Tea Party was a very racist party. Yes, the Tea Party was a very racist party. It had for its banner, for its symbol, it had a white rooster with a racist mantra, a mantra proclaiming hatred against quote so-called black people and other minorities. So me having a little bit of knowledge that I do of the Tea Party, I was a bit, I'm like, does this guy really know what the Tea Party stand for? And I believe he do. But to hear him say it so openly, I was a little bit surprised. You know, I was a little bit surprised at that. But hey, that's the kind of fools we're dealing with. You see what I'm saying? But you know, I'm one dude that I'm not intimidated by racist people. I really am not. You know, I'm just not. I'm not. I'm that Malcolm X kind of dude. You see, who believe that if threatened, I have every right to fight and defend myself. You know, so I'm the dude that will stand at the window with the shotgun waiting for you to come. And I'm that kind of dude. So you know, yep, but hey, it is what it is, man. They ain't ashamed and ought not to be ashamed of who Yahuah has made me. Okay, so nonetheless, moving on. Moving on. Let's see.
Interesting that you would say moving on because that's what I think as a people what we have tried to do is to move on, and in one breath you have people, you know, that or Caucasian that will say, hey, listen, I'm here, you know, I'm trying to think differently or, you know, differently as my ancestors did. But then you have those that, you know, they would much rather like things to be the way they used to be. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a difficult place for us as a people because now you have to, you know, be trying to decipher who's who. You know, me personally, I don't like help.
Yeah.
Leave it to yourself. But it's a difficult place, you know, for us to be. It's this wicked world we live in.
Indeed. Okay. Now, anyway, so going back to the question that was asked, as far as why do we say shalom, S-H-A-L-U-M, as opposed to shalom, S-H-A-L-A-M, or shalawam, S-H-A-L-A-W-A-M, as some will spell it. Well, in my research, what I find is that there is the word shalom, S-H-A-L-A-M, it is a valid word, shalom. And it is a word that does speak of peace, right? But what I find in my studies is that when the word shalom is used, it's in reference to a place or the place of peace, the place of restoration, the set apart place, the place that was chosen by Yahuah You see, as in the king of Shalom, right? As in the king of Shalom. So Shalom is in reference to a place when we find it used in the scriptures, you see. The Malak of Shalom, exactly. Aki, to the Rabbah for putting those references up there, Aki Franklin. You know, Aki Franklin, he's our professor. Yes, he's
got notes for everything, like a page every time
yeah,
you go to
indeed.
Got notes on it.
Yeah, you see, what Aki Franklin does is, Aki Franklin, he just load the wagon, and then he allow Yahuah to unpack the wagon as time becomes necessary. You see, he just gathered he gathered the knowledge. He commit himself to gaining knowledge, to studying, and then you know, you don't know when the knowledge will become necessary, and you're not concerned in what order you're putting it in there. You just put it in there. That's all we need to do. Our responsibility is simply to load the wagon. And then once we load the wagon, Yahuah will unpack it. You see what I'm saying? Our responsibility is to gain knowledge. And as time becomes necessary and situations come up where that knowledge is needed, Yahuah unpacks it. He brings stuff out that you don't even remember that you packed. You see what I'm saying? So our responsibility is to gain knowledge. Now, yes, so when we see the word shalom used in scripture, it is in reference to a place. Yes, it does mean peace. It does, just as the word shalom means peace. But the word shalom is really geographical. It's tied to geography, whereas the word shalom is tied to a state of being. Right? It is tied to a state of being. So one is tied to a place, the other is tied to a state of being, more so to the people. You see, the condition of the people, right? So one is tied to the place, the other one is used in reference to the people and the state of being. You see. So we say shalom because that's the one that refers to the people, that refers to a state of being, whereas shalom is in reference to a place when we see it used in the scriptures, in the language. Okay? Now, why don't we say shalom? Why don't we say shalom? Well, people say shalom because they believe that the W is a part of the Abari language, and it's a part of the dialect. But the truth of the matter is that it's not, right? The truth of the matter is that it's not. Now, I'll give you a quick example here. Hopefully I'm not breaking up, family. I'm still getting some signals saying that I have poor reception. But just give me a second, and I want to show you something real quickly. Okay? I want to show you something here very quickly. We're going to use the dictionary for a second. Excuse me. All right. Now, even if I have a book. Matter of fact, hey, give me just a moment. Let me find the exact name of this book that I have that will even explain to you the usage of the W. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Let me see. I'm gonna see if I put my video on here for a second. How do I do that? Okay, I'm gonna put video on for a second on both of these. I want to show you this book, because in this book they even explain to you, the Christian writers, the Christian folks even tell you about the W. Okay, but give me just a sec. I don't know if you're seeing video or not. Don't know if you're able to see the video. I'm not seeing any video, but my camera is on. But let me let me just see here. Bear with me here. You know, it might not be a good day to turn the video on. I keep getting dropped signal, but I'm trying to get you to see the book. I don't just want to tell you what the name of the book is. Let's see. Stop sharing. Bear with me here, family. I'm just trying to figure this out. Okay, so I see that you are seeing video. Are you? You're still seeing? Are you seeing video, family? Are you seeing the video? Let me try to find my notes. 2. Okay, you are. All right. Now this book. This is a book that I have. It's I've had it for quite some time, going back to my days in the church, but it's an old book. This is the Crusades edition of the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible. For the people on YouTube, I'm not sure how to put the video on there, but yeah, so but this is the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance. There's a way to put the video on YouTube. I don't remember right now. Sorry, I've never used video for this program, so I don't quite know how to do it. I can do it, but I've never used it, so I don't know how to do it. So I apologize, YouTube. Nonetheless, for the family on Fuse, you see the book, but I'm going to give the name of the book also. Okay? I'm going to give the name of the book also. So the name of the book is Strong's Exhaustive Concordance of the Bible. That's the name of the book. In this book, it even explains in this book about the W. And they tell you that the W is only there to give inference. In other words, they say that they use the W to let you know that. So normally what you'll see is, you'll always find when the W is used in these concordances that it is accompanied either by a U or a V. Okay. Oh, this is the this edition is from 1970 something. This edition, I gotta look at it again. Somewhere it's written somewhere in here. What number edition was it? It's the Crusades. I'm trying to find that information. It's not so obvious. They didn't say it, you know, right on the cover somewhere where you can tell. I call it the Crusade edition because that's what they have marked on there. But other than that, I'm not too sure. I know I looked at the published date, and I believe it was published in the 1970s. Yeah, so, but in this book, it tells you that the letter W is used to let you know that when you see the U, it's a soft sound. It's a soft sound. In other words, the W that you see, it's not a part of the language. We just use it to give you an idea of what sound should come, and it should be a soft sound, not a hard sound. They explain that in this book, and not just in this book, in many other places. There are a lot of information that's presented in prefaces of books, but how many people read the preface, right? We look at it, that's boring. I don't want to read the preface. But even the Bible, if more people would read the preface in their Bible, then they would understand that When you see God in the Bible and the Lord in the Bible, that stuff is not a part of the original language. It's not a part of the original writing, because they tell you there that we put that there, right? In place of the Creator's name and so on. Okay, so they tell you that in these texts. So, but let's look at the letter W from the dictionary for a second. Let's go to the dictionary for a moment and look at the letter W, okay? Bear with me while I get that on the screen for you. I'm going to go to dictionary.com. Again, what we're discussing is why we don't say shalom or even spell the Creator's name with a W. All you got to do when you go to the dictionary is type in W. Just type the letter W, hit search. Okay? Type the letter W and hit search. You can also go to Google and you can Google the origin of the letter W. And there's a lot of information that you can find by doing that also. Okay? But I'm going to put this on the screen. So all I did was I went to dictionary.com and I typed in the letter W. I typed W, just the letter W, and then I hit search. And so now we're looking at the results. So let me put that back on the screen. All right. W. It says noun, plural, W's, or WS, or W apostrophe S, or WS period, right? Now it says W is the 23rd letter of the English alphabet. It is a semi-vowel. Okay. Any spoken sound, number 2, definition number 2, any spoken sound represented by the letter W or W as in way, bewitch, or row. Something having the shape of a W. All right, let's continue. A written or printed presentation of the letter W or W, a device as a printer, blah, blah, blah. All right, let's go down a little bit further, get to the meat of the matter. Okay. Origin, the origin of the letter W. So it's German in origin, right? The letter W, it's actually not English, it's actually German in origin, right? It's German in origin and then adopted later. Now right there is a clue. Right there is our first clue. Because are we discussing the German language or are we discussing the Abari language? Right? My wife said we're discussing the Abari language, right? So for somebody to say that something belongs to the Abari language, when you look up the origin of that letter, that picture, whatever you may call it, when you look up the origin of it, if you say it belonged to that language, then the origin of it should be that language, right? It shouldn't be German, should it? Right? So this is our first clue. The first clue is that the origin of it is German, right? That's the first clue. Now we can go further. All right. The 23rd in order, or in a series, or when I is omitted, the 22nd. Now let's go down because it presents more information about the W. Let me see. Let me find it here. Try to find all of the information that it presents. It actually tells you when the W began to be used, when they started using the W. So if you look in, watch this now. I'm going to read this one for you. It says, not in the Roman alphabet, but the modern English sound, but the modern English sound it represents is close to the devocalized consonant expressed by Roman U, which they later changed to V. And out of the V is what we get W, but the Roman U. In Old English, this originally was written as U, two U's, double U, that's why they call it W, right? But by 8th century, began to be expressed by the runic character Win, W-I-N, Kentish Wen, W-E-N, which looked like this, like a P basically. The character is a late addition to the online font set and doesn't display properly on many computers, so it's something like a cross between lowercase p and a reversed y. In 11th century, Norman scribes introduced W in the 11th century, a ligatured doubling of Roman U, a ligatured doubling of the Roman U, which had been used on the continent for the Germanic W sound. So again, this W sound come from German, not from Abari, and it is quite recent. And when disappeared, now by 1300, W is not properly a letter in the modern French alphabet, and it is used there only in borrowed foreign words, example wagon, weekend, western, whiskey, wombat. What they're saying is even in the French language you don't have the letter W. The only time you find the letter W is when they put another, they're using a foreign word. So it's not even in any other language you don't find the letter W. There are more information, and there are other websites that I can go to, but basically I think you get the idea from that. I'm just doing a quick overview, but I think you get the idea, right? That the letter W is not a part of the Abari language. Not even the Roman language don't have a letter W in it, right? What the Roman language had in it was the letter U, right? Or the U, as in that we find in the Abari language. So they added the letter W just for sound effect, as they'll tell you in some of these concordances, to let you know that it makes a soft sound. But you don't need a W added to anything to make a soft U sound, right? In the word school, you have the U sound, but you don't have a W, you have a double O, and you know it gives you the U sound, school, right? In the name Yahuah, we don't need a W to sound it out, you see, and so on. So there are people who know the history of the letter W, its origin. They assume that it's a part of the language, and so with everything they add this W sound to it. Like they have a Hebrew Israelite school in New York that's been around for a few years, and people who have had any encounter with that group, you will hear them using the wam a lot. Everything they say have a wam to it, you know what I mean? And that's because they assume that the W is a part of the Abari language. They say it's a part of the Abari language, but it's actually not. It has no history tied to the Abari language. It's not even tied to, it's tied to the German language, you see? And that's as far as it goes. Okay. All right. So that's just a quick overview as to why we say shalom and not shalom or shalom. Aki, I hope that that explained, that you got some clarity in that regards. I like to say, and something that I say often, that what we seek the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And I believe it's I think I can speak for everyone that's been a part of this assembly, that we don't just do and say things because we see somebody else say it. We test all things. We try to test it. We want to know if we're just following tradition or we're following truth. We don't want to simply follow tradition. What we want is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So you hear a lot of people say a lot of stuff, but simply because people are saying it, we're not going to say it. We want to know why it is being said. You see, so we dig for it, right? And so that's why we say shalom and not shalom or shalom. Okay? All right. Okay, so Keith Franklin posted some information there on the board also. Now, let's see. Okay, family. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go to the book of Mashali, Proverbs chapter 26. Yeah, I see that is continuing, and I'm so sorry about that, family. The issues continue. We continue to have some difficulties. And I am also having might be having some difficulties with Zoom a little bit too, but we're gonna go to the book of Mashali, Proverbs chapter 26. And we're gonna pick up from where we left off last week, and we pray that things will clear up here. All right, Proverbs chapter 26. Last week we left off at verse 2, as I read a little bit ago. Now we're going to pick up now from verse 3. It says, a whip for a horse and a bridle for a donkey and a rod for the fool's back. And we had discussed this already previously. A whip for a horse, a bridle for a donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. You see, and we talked about the horse, and you'll notice even with horse racing that the jockey carries a whip. That's the way you get the horse to comply. A bridle for a donkey. That's the way you get the donkey to comply. Yahuah says a rod for the fool's back, because that's the only thing that the fool will understand. You see, and really a fool don't even understand is striking, is spanking, is chastening. But nonetheless, even because you don't understand it, don't mean that it's not necessary, because you got to do something to rein in the fool. You see, if you have a foolish child, that child will not understand his chastising. You see, in his folly, he won't understand his chastising. And many children, because they think as children do, they don't see what it is that you're trying to do for them, that you're actually trying to help them, that you're trying to guide them. And so in childhood folly, they feel as if you don't want what's good for them. You're keeping them from something that's good, when you tell them they can't do this or they can't do that. And a foolish child will rebel. And when a foolish child rebel, then he reaps the fruit of rebellion, which can be in many cases destruction, right? And so that child is foolish at that point in their life, and hopefully as they grow and mature, they'll grow in wisdom, and they'll realize that what mom and dad was trying to do all along was to protect me, that they only wanted the best for me. When they tell you don't hang out with so-and-so, it's not because they don't want you to have any friends. It's not because they want to see you miserable, but they know that so-and-so is bad news. My grandmama always say, show me your company and I'll tell you who you are, right? You can tell a lot by a person, by the people they choose to hang out with, by the people they choose to associate with, as opposed to who they choose not to associate with. You see, there are some people who They don't want to be around you. They don't want to come around you, but they don't have a problem being around somebody else. You see, because your standard, you see, the standard that you're living by, it brings a level of conviction that they don't want to deal with. You see, they think you're too much and everything else that they might think about you. And they think that you think you're better than them, and they think everything else. And simply because you're living by a certain standard, they want to say that you are judgmental when you have not even opened your mouth to say anything. All you're doing is living your life, and that goes to say that the way we live speaks volume. You see, because it's not just what comes out of your mouth, but your whole life is a conversation. You see, our whole life is a conversation. So the way we carry ourselves, you see, what we respond to or what we don't respond to. Because you see, family, you can also say a lot by not saying anything at all. You see, you can also say a whole lot by not saying anything at all.
You will not tolerate.
You see. And so, you know, so, yes, indeed. So people will, a fool sometimes is too foolish to know what's good for them, but simply because they don't understand the whipping, simply because they don't understand the beating, simply because they don't understand the discipline, it don't mean that then because they don't understand that you ain't going to use the rod on the fool. Because if you don't, if you leave him, he's not only going to destroy himself, but he's going to destroy you in the process. You see, if you leave him unfettered, if you leave him, if you do nothing about him and his behavior, then you're going to be terrorized by him. And so Yahuah says, a rod for the fool's back. With that said, I'm going to take it back to our people here for a moment, because the reality is, the fact of the matter is that we have people out there, our people, I'm talking about so-called black people. You have people out there that's acting a fool. You see, you have people out there that's acting a fool. And you know what? While the police kill a lot of our people innocently and abuse a lot of our people who shouldn't be abused the way they abuse them, the truth of the matter is that there are many of our people out there too who need the rod. They need the rod. You see what I'm saying? They need the rod. And sometimes what Yahuah does is Yahuah uses the wicked to deal with the wicked. You see, Yahuah uses the wicked to deal with the wicked, because the truth of the matter is we have some wicked people among us. You see? Yes, indeed. We have some wicked people among us, and Yahuah says he chastises those whom he loves. You see what I'm saying? And so Yahuah uses the wicked to deal with the wicked. And some of our people out there, they're doing all kinds of wickedness. You're running around shooting down your neighbor and robbing your own people and doing all kinds of disgusting, wicked stuff. Then in many cases, you ask for what you get, and you get what you ask for. You see, so the fact of the matter is, while you have wicked police out there, all of our people ain't innocent. And every police interaction don't have to go the way they go down if our people would act with a little bit more wisdom. But we are so stubborn. We are so we're so stubborn. We act so foolishly that we justify the use of force against us. You see? Because listen, a police officer or somebody might, let me use the police first before I go anywhere else. A police officer who is up to no good, filled with racist hatred, might come messing with you, might pull you over for no reason. But simply because you're pulled over for no reason, and you know you're being pulled over for no reason, if you are wise, you're not going to start acting a fool. If he go to arrest you and you know that you're being arrested for no reason, you don't start swinging at him and starting a brawl that, well, I guess you're too foolish to realize that you can't win. You see? But that ain't the place for you to fight.
A perfect example is this. Just not long ago, probably the beginning of the summer, you had a young man over Philadelphia racing through the streets on the dirt bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? A cop was taking some witnesses, I guess, to the station that had nothing to do with this young man. On the way to the station with these witnesses, tried to pull the young man over. He's already supposed to be doing something, number one.
Mm-hmm.
But he ran into this young man who was racing through the streets
On the dirt bike. Mm-hmm.
Just so happened the young man had a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
Now, had the cop been minding his business, the young boy probably would have been just, continued racing up and down the street. But mind you, these kids are shooting at one another. All right? Our kids shooting at one another. So some would say, well, you got another one off the street, another gun off the street. But that young man died as a result of coming into contact with this cop that should have been doing another job already. But he said the young boy turned around as the young guy was fleeing from him and pointed a gun at him.
Yeah, but the video shows differently.
The
He
video
shoot him in the
showed
back,
that.
and he showed the boy running away from
Yes,
him.
and the witnesses
But-
says that's what happened. But if he had not been doing what? Two things.
Mhm.
Carrying a weapon
Mhm.
and racing through the streets on a dirt bike.
Recklessly. Mm-hmm.
Putting, y'all know how they race through these streets. They don't stop at no stop signs. They do it, they race through the parks. We look at them ourselves and come on now, y'all, stop it.
Mm-hmm.
But when something happened to them, we get in an uproar. Now, no, I don't want none of my kids hurt. But at the same time, you're giving them leverage,
Right. So, a foolish person won't understand the discipline always. You see, but like again, Yahuah says that he'll raise the wicked against us. Absolutely, he does. You see, to bring us back to our senses. You see, so while it is true that you have the police out there that target our people and even frame our people and lie against our people and do things to provoke a reaction so they can take action. The reality is that many of our people out there are acting like fools, absolute fools, you see. And so the other thing too is that we don't have to respond to every situation. We don't have to respond to every word. We don't have to respond to everything somebody say about us. You see what I'm saying? If you're wise, then you'll know, okay, listen, the more you argue with a fool and the longer you argue with a fool, then pretty soon it becomes difficult to distinguish between who have sense and who don't. You see, because if you spend time arguing with a fool, then it says that you are just as foolish as the fool you're arguing with. That's like Donald Trump and this dude over there in North Korea. Now I understand a lot of people don't know the history of North Korea and America and why North Korea is so why they take the posture that they take, but that dude over there, he's really foolish. More foolish than his father and his grandfather. You see, his father and his grandfather, they weren't foolish. They knew what they were doing, but this guy, he just talks too much. You see. But now you have Donald Trump arguing with a fool. We already know Donald Trump is a fool, but it just put an exclamation mark on his foolishness. You see, that you're going to sit there and go back and forth with somebody who obviously really don't have no sense. You see. Nonetheless, we continue. So a whip for a horse, a bridle for a donkey, and a rod for the fool's back. Okay, do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also become like him. There it is. You keep responding to a fool, you keep arguing with a fool, pretty soon you won't be able to distinguish between you and the fool. People won't be able to distinguish between who's the fool and who is not. Because if you're arguing a fool, or you keep arguing with a fool, it means then that you're just as foolish as the fool. You see? So do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also become like him. So the answer here is talking about going back and forth with a fool. There's a difference between going back and forth with a fool and disciplining a fool. There is a difference. You see? And there is a time when action must be taken against the fool, and there's a time when you just leave the fool to himself. If you see that he's no danger to other people, you leave him to himself. But if you see where the possibility exists that he is going to endanger others and corrupt others, that's where you got to step in and you got to do something about it. He who sends a message by the hand of a fool cuts off feet and drinks damage. You do not send a message by the hand of a fool. You don't want a fool representing you. You don't want a fool taking a message to anybody, because that fool is going to twist your words, and before you know it, it's going to sound like foolishness, and it's going to create all kinds of problems for you, right? So you do not send a message by the hand of a fool, his word tells us. The legs of the lame, verse 7, hang limp. So is a proverb in the mouth of fools. The legs of the lame hang limp. A lame person, they have legs, but their legs are of no use to them, right? Well, so is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. You see, when Yahusha spoke, he spoke in Proverbs because he knew he was dealing with a bunch of fools. And he said, you know what? This message ain't for them. And so I'm going to speak it openly, but I'm going to speak it in Proverbs. And I know that even though this thing have much power in it, much value, that it is life-changing if only they would get it, but it's not for them, and they're foolish. I'm going to speak a proverb, because a proverb in the mouth of a fool is as limp as a lame man's legs. You see? A proverb, a fool does not know the value of a proverb. He can't understand it. A fool does not know the value of anything that's of value. You see, because he's too foolish to comprehend it. You see, and so anything in the hand of a fool is as limp as a lame man's legs, is what Yahuah says. Now, like one binding a stone in a sling, so is he who gives esteem to a fool. Like one binding a stone in a sling, so is he who gives esteem to a fool. And what that means is, what's the use? Now look at the tool that you're looking at. You're looking at a sling, right? If you want to use a sling is used to propel the stone, to make the stone go further. So the purpose of the sling is to sling the stone, is to throw the stone. So why would you want to bind the stone in the sling? That is counterproductive, right? So it says, like one binding a stone in a sling, so is he who gives esteem to a fool. It is counterproductive to give esteem to a fool. You do not give esteem to a fool. It is counterproductive. Verse 9, a thorn goes into the hand of a drunkard, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. So is a proverb in the mouth of fools. So number one, the fool cannot recognize the value of the proverb, right? But not only can't he recognize the value of the proverb, the very proverb that he can't comprehend becomes a curse against him, becomes a witness against him. You see all those people, when they came to Yahusha, not for any good reason, seeking to destroy him, seeking to fight against him, and he spoke to them in proverb. The proverb that he spoke that they could not understand, that proverb became a witness against them, and that proverb sealed their destruction. You see? Next one says, an archer who wounds anyone is he who hires a fool or any passerby. An archer who wounds anyone is he who hires a fool or any passerby. Listen, family, if you have a business, yes, you want to help your community, you want to help the community, you want to help people. But if you are wise, if you have a business, if you, okay, I'm going to use my Aki Matat Aki Matat as a security business. Would it, and Aki Matat want to help his community, but in his community, he don't have any security experts. He don't have anybody in his community with security skills, with security knowledge. Would it be wise for Aki Matat simply because he wants to help his community, to just see anybody, just any old body passing by? It might be a farmer, might be somebody with some other kind of skill, but he's unemployed, don't have any knowledge of what I do, but I want to help him. So hey, come work in my security business. I want you to go guard this place for me. I want you to guard this person for me, and I'm going to pay you good money. Would that be wise of Aki Matat? No, it wouldn't be wise. No, it wouldn't be wise. You know that there are countries that make that mistake. There are whole governments that make that mistake. You see, I'll give you, for example, in Jamaica, the way, I'll give you a little history of Jamaica here to make this point, to help us to understand the point here. Let me give you a little bit of the history. So Jamaica, after Jamaica gained its independence from the British in 1962, Jamaica was declared an independent country on August 5th, I believe it was, 1962. After Jamaica gained its independence from the British in 1962, you had from that point you had people, Jamaican people, not all black people, but you have white people that lived in Jamaica for so long that they talk Jamaican. You hear them talk, can't tell them different than anybody else, and they consider themselves to be just as much Jamaican as anybody else, right? So Jamaicans began to govern themselves to a certain degree, to a certain extent, after this date in 1962. The government, it was still a puppet government. In other words, the British and the American government was still dictating a lot of what goes on. And so people began to oppose that idea. And so the political parties were formed, and people opposed that idea of being a puppet. And they wanted true independence, and they wanted what was best for their people, because the problem with a puppet government was that the people were still working not for their own interest, not in their own interest, but for the interest and in the interest of foreign governments. In other words, everything, all of the wealth was still going to foreign governments, foreign influences. And there were people who were opposed to that idea, and they rose up and they said, we're gonna seek to take us a greater stake in the political offices in order to change that. And so they began to do that. Okay, and so you have another political party that came up that opposed that whole puppet idea. But as that political party rose, so did the opposition to it rise from those foreign entities, whether it be the British government or the US government. And they work to sabotage the economy and to sabotage the government, because that government was looking out for the interest of the local people, and they were looking out for the interest of corporations. And so they work to sabotage. Now, what the government that was looking out for the interest of the people began to do to stay alive, literally and otherwise, to stay alive, they began to award certain contracts to people that they know have their backs. They began to award contracts to people who have their backs. And so now the way that work began to be distributed in Jamaica was on a partisan level. So depending on which political party is in power, the supporters of that party are going to do good. They're gonna have the jobs and so on, while the people from the other party ain't gonna really have no jobs. But that came about because of foreign influence, and that they had to figure a way how to protect themselves, literally protect themselves from assassination attempts and everything else that these governments do in foreign countries that people don't know nothing about. So they had to try to protect themselves from that. So what they did was they work on building dons or strong men in the community, and those dons and strong men, they looked out for their supporters, and in turn, if you have supporters, then you are more protected, right? And so, but what that led to an atmosphere now of corruption. It led to an atmosphere of corruption. And so you would have they would have money to build schools and to build roads and things like that. But now, because it's a partisan effort and it's all about politics, because ultimately it's what they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure that they remain safe while they're trying to work to make their people better. But everybody in the country don't see things the same way. Some people believe in the American English idea, some people is against it. And so you have people in the country who are willing to take them out just as much as you have foreign powers, and those foreign powers are using the people in the country to fight against the establishment. So, but what that led to, it led to corruption. And so as a result of that, because of this partisan way of distributing money and getting work done, these people that were giving money to build schools and to build roads to people, they would just hire anybody, as long as, so now the criteria is not whether or not you know how to lay asphalt or if you have any construction experience. The criteria is whether or not you are of a certain political party. And if you're of a certain political party and we are in power, then you get money and you go ahead and you build a school. The problem is that these people are getting money to build schools, but they know nothing about building buildings. They know nothing about building schools. They know nothing about building roads. And so what that leads to, it leads to a waste of money. It leads to mismanagement. It leads to poor building development. It leads to cost overruns. It leads to all kinds of stuff. And so when that happens, the entire country, the entire community, everything is affected. So I say that to say that, for example, with Yahuah, simply because you want to look out for your people and you want your people to do good, if they don't have certain skills, it's not wise to say, I'm going to give you this job just on the basis that, you know, we're family. You see what I'm saying? So if you really want to help your people, you're not going to just give them something simply because they're family, simply because they're related, or simply because you are of the same nation or anything like that. If you really want to help your people, then what you need to do then is start with educating them, right? Start with training them or encourage them to get the necessary training. That's what this text is saying, family. That's what this verse is saying. I'm going to read the verse again. Verse 10, it says, an archer who wounds anyone is he who hires a fool or any passerby. Listen, if you are an archer and that is your profession, you go out and you hunt, and you go hire somebody to come along with you to hunt, and that person don't know nothing about shooting, you're taking on a liability, because that person you're going to be shooting, he don't know how to aim, and he going to just kill anything that goes by, including people. You see, because he don't know what he's doing. Now you're taking on a liability. So if we want to help each other, if our people don't have the skills, and even the government, if the government wants to help us, if the government say they want to help us, recognizing that we don't have the skills, that our people don't have the skills, then what should, yes indeed, Aki, great example, Blackwater, great example, Aki. But if the government wants to help us, right? The government said they want to help us. The government said they want to help our people. Our people are lacking skills. What should the government do? The government should build a robust education system. The government, and Donald Trump in particular, have a problem with putting money into education, into educating our people. But yet you say you want to help our people. How can you want to help our people when you don't even believe in funding their education? Now, any smart country and any smart people will know that the best investment that you can invest is investment in your population, right? So if you can find a way to make education available to your population, then your chances of becoming a stronger people, a stronger economy, increases, as opposed to if you have a bunch of people living in your society, they can't afford education, only a few can afford it. Now you're going to have an economy that's weighed down by untrained people, where if you put an arrow in their hand, they don't know what they're doing because they were never trained to be an archer. And they go out there and they just make a mess of everything. And like Aki said, Blackwater is the perfect example of that, because what they did with Blackwater in Iraq and in Afghanistan, what they did was they just took a bunch of racist, I don't know what terminology to add to that, but they just picked a bunch of racist rednecks for the most part, who are trigger happy, and send them into those places. And what they do, they go over there and they just kill and pillage and rape with no kind of nothing, no kind of no discipline, you see. And they announced that they're bidding for Afghanistan. Pay them $100,000 a year, $150,000 a year, and they have no training, no formal training. But guess what? It don't matter to the government. After all, we don't care about them people, no way. You see what I'm saying? That's what happens. You see, it's that racist ideology that continue to govern, right? You see. Now, I pray so too. So, as a dog returns to his own vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. A fool don't learn from his mistakes. A wise person learns from their mistakes. But anybody that you see who have fell victim to their actions, and they continue to go back and do the same thing time and time again, that person is a fool. That's one way of identifying a fool. You see? They say that the definition of madness You could say the definition of folly, the definition of foolishness, the definition of insanity is to continue to do the same thing time and time again, expecting to get different results. Family, whatever it is that you have been doing, if it hasn't been working in your life, if you continue, number one, if you continue to get the same results and it's not the result that you desire, then you got to evaluate what it is that you're doing. You got to step back and you got to look and say, you got to take a moment, examine yourself, examine your actions and say, what is it that I've been doing? What is it that I've been doing? Okay, so I have certain expectations, I have certain desires, but I have certain goals, but I have not been able to achieve them. I have not been able to attain them. I have not been able to accomplish them. And so I need to look at what I've been doing, right? I need to take inventory. I need to look at what I've been doing. I need to take an audit of my behavior. You see, do some some soul searching. See what it is that I've been doing, and then make a how should I put it? Make a studious decision. Make a deliberate decision to do something differently. Try something differently. You see. Try something differently. You might not have all the answers. You see, and reevaluating what you've been doing will help you to learn where you have erred. But even then, you might not have all the answers, but make a decision that I'm going to change some things. I'm going to do something differently in hopes of achieving different results. But there are many people, family, there are many people who continue to do the same old stuff, and then they wonder why things aren't changing. You see? Why things aren't changing. Why things are still the same. Why is my life so miserable? Why is this? Why is that? You keep doing the same old thing. You're not willing to change, but you want change. You see, if you want change, you've got to be willing to change. And if you want change, you've got to be the change that you would like to see. If we want change, we've got to be the change that we would like to see. You see. Now, do not make the mistake either that when it involves other people, that you can simply be the change and everybody else is going to see you change and follow suit. Some wise people will. But then there are some people that if they're supposed to pick up the slack, if it's, bear with me here just for a second, family. If they're supposed to pick up the slack, they're not going to do it unless you call them on it. You know, you could be in a job situation, you could be at work, and there are people there who they're there for a paycheck. They're not there to work really. They're there to try for somebody to carry them, and that is not just work. It can be in any situation. It can be in a family. Can be in a home. It can be whatever. And if you believe that in every situation, if I simply be the change that I want to see, in other words, you know what? I want them to understand the value of working harder. So I'm going to work harder. I'm not going to say anything. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up the slack where what they fail to do. I'm going to do my job and I'm going to do their job. And you know what? After me doing that for a little while, they're going to catch on and then they're going to do their job. No. that don't work with everybody, because there's some people, they're already there looking for you to carry them. They're already there looking for you to pick up their slack. They're already there looking for somebody to do their work. You see what I'm saying? And it becomes necessary then, whether it's in a workplace, whether it's in the home, whether it's in whatever it might be. It becomes necessary then sometimes to actually say to somebody, you know, I really need you to do this, this, that, and the other. I can't do everything. You see. Yes, indeed. Absolutely a key. And that's where it begins. But I can't do everything. I really need you to do your part. I really need you to help me. Right? And that applies across every area in our lives. It can. Okay? Now, as a dog returns, right? So that's what we're talking about. As a dog returns to his own vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. Only a foolish person continue to do the same old thing and expect different results. Okay? You're not seeing the results that you want. It means then you got to do some evaluation and you got to make some changes. Verse 12. Have you seen a man wise in his own eyes? There is more expectancy for a fool than for him. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there are some people that you can't tell anything. They feel like they know it all. They have all the answers. If you try to tell them something, you get this idea, been there, done that. You know, there's nothing that you can tell me. I know it all. But somehow, they're not achieving anything. They're not getting anywhere. They're not going nowhere. They're not growing. Right? You can't correct them even though they badly need correction. Yahuah's word says that even the fool will accomplish more than that person. He says, you can put greater expectation in the outcome of a fool than in a person who praises themselves all the time and who feels that they're the best at everything. I had a meeting at work yesterday. We once a month, the coordinators and management, we meet to discuss issues. I've been tasked since taking the position. There's one coordinator that sings his praises all day long. He is the best. He'll tell you like, you walk with a swag, and he'll tell you that he's the best. There ain't nobody there better than him. He's the best at everything. Now, and you can't tell him anything. You really can't. Now, what they do is they track. We deal with machinery, computers that track results, that tracks outcome, that tracks performance. And when they bring up the computer, the performance report from the computers, his is the worst. But in his mind, he's the best. And you can't tell him anything. He walk around and tell you all day how good he is. But the data says something totally different. Yahuah says a person like that, you can have more expectancy in a fool than for a person who is wise in his own eyes. Family, Shahul says it this way: let another man praise you, and not that of your own lips. Let another man praise you, and not your own lips. You see? Because when you get so busy praising yourself, you don't have time for nothing else. You don't have time to see anything else. All you see when you're about praising yourself, all you can see is good in you, and that might not be a true picture. You don't see the room for improvement. You don't see the error of your ways, because you have already declared to your own self that you are the greatest. that you are the best. And that's dangerous. It says even a fool is likely to do better than you. An outright fool. Here's the next part. The lazy one says, there's a lion in the way. There's a lion in the street. There's a lion in the way. A fierce lion is in the streets. The lazy one says, there's a lion in the street. There's a lion in the way. A fierce lion in the streets. Laziness, and we did a whole lesson on laziness. But laziness will cause you to come up with all kinds of excuses. Laziness will cause you to come up with all kinds of excuses. Excuses as to why you can't do this and why you can't do that. Why you haven't done this and why you haven't done that. Laziness is an inventor of excuses. You see? A lazy person always have a reason for their failures, for their inability to achieve anything. Laziness is the inventor of excuses. Laziness will cause you to see what don't exist. Laziness will tell you that you have pain in your body when there ain't no pain. Laziness will tell you that your energy level is low when that ain't the issue. Laziness will tell you that you have laziness will tell you that you have what you call it now, self you have a problem with how you view yourself. Laziness will tell you that you have mental and medical and all kinds of issues. You see, yep. Laziness will cause you to blame the white man for everything. Laziness. Yes, laziness will tell you that you have low self-esteem. That's what I was trying to remember, Aki. You see? Laziness will tell you that you are not capable, that everybody else can do it, but you can't. Somehow, they are able to learn, but I can't. You see? They're able to accomplish, but I just can't. Laziness. You see, while it is true, family, that there are many things that have been done against us and to hinder us. When I look at our people today, in working with our people, in seeing our people, in interacting with our people, and even with family, what I find is that the biggest hindrance to us achieving and accomplishing anything as a people today is laziness. I know our people don't like that. I'm talking to the so-called black man and black woman now. I know we don't like to be told that. I know we don't like to hear that, but that's a fact. It's a reality that I see. That a lot of our people are too lazy, not willing to put in some extra effort. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, there are things, obstacles set up. But can you get over them? Yes, you can. Yes, indeed. I see it. I see it among strangers. I see it in my family. I see it all over the place. I see it with people that I work with. I see it. Now, and there are there are real circumstances and situations that hinder people. And listen, family, listen. Depression, right? Aki Yahakabaku Sharia mentioned depression. Some people, laziness will cause you to blame depression on you not doing anything, achieving anything. But and that might not be the case initially. But what a lot of people don't realize is that laziness can lead to depression, and laziness often leads to depression. Listen, laziness will cripple you, not just mentally, but also physically and spiritually. Laziness will cripple you. If you're too lazy to study, to research, to search out the truth, you're crippled spiritually. If you're too lazy to get up and go get a job, you are crippled mentally and physically. And financially, you're crippled. You are crippled. Laziness will cripple you in all kinds of ways. And I see it happen. I see it happen. Some people say, I can't get a job because I'm depressed. And you know what? The truth of the matter is they didn't start out depressed. You wasn't depressed when you were saying that you were depressed. You were lazy. But now that you talk yourself into depression because of your laziness, now you're truly depressed because now you know what you lack. Yahuah says that for a lazy man, poverty will come upon him like an armed man. You see, now you lack. Now you're faced with what you don't have, and now you are truly depressed. Some people start out with the excuses, when really the bottom line is you've been lazy. But now the things that you're saying that is what was keeping you from working, now you're experiencing them because laziness brings them on. You see. Yes, indeed. Laziness can affect one in any area of life. Absolutely a key. In any area of life. Laziness is dangerous. It's lazy. Laziness is dangerous, family. It's dangerous. Laziness is dangerous. It's our worst enemy. It is our worst enemy. You see. Aki Yahuah wrote, laziness causes us to be trifling in our ways with no pride of who we are as a people. So we settle for things like sagging, which spells nigger backwards. Yes, indeed. Laziness. You see it, family, when a person is lazy, you see it in their posture. You see it in their dress. You see it in their demeanor. You hear it in their speech. It is all over them. Laziness speaks. It have a language all by itself. You see? Laziness have a language all by itself. It speaks. You see? It speaks, and when you see it, you understand it, you know it, you recognize it. But guess what? It speaks to the lazy person also. It speaks them into being trifling. It speaks them into being underachieving. It speaks them into being almost worthless. It speaks them into worthlessness. Laziness, dangerous. Okay? Now, so the lazy one says there's a lion in the way. A fierce lion is in the streets. Not just any lion. But man, did you see that lion? That lion fierce. Family, I work in a workplace of at the site where I work, there are a little over 50 total, a little over 50 employees. There are 4 out of the 50, 4 of us are black. Out of the 50, 4 are black. Out of the 50.
Percentage.
It's very small. I had to do the math, but it's small. Now, while I work with people who I see clearly as day that they're racist and that they have racist ideas. I also see black guys come there and they live up to that expectation. That's 0.8%, babe. Aki Franklin just posted.
Yeah, I was saying it ain't quite 10%.
Okay?
Thank you.
So, but I see people come there and live up to that expectation. You know why? Because they're lazy. They come there and they they behave like what some white people, how some white people say they would behave. Now I go there and I behave differently. And they have a problem with that too. They have a problem with it because they can't talk about me. Matter of fact, I work harder than them and that make them feel some kind of way. Yeah. Now what I realize is a lot of them who say we're lazy, they're lazier than we. The only difference is that the system in which we live is more willing to tolerate their laziness, put up with their laziness, put up with their poor productivity, than they are willing to put up with that of others. That's what I've noticed.
Well, the difference is they just don't want to work while they pretend as if they work and steal time.
Not productive. Underproductive.
You're assuming that they're working. Really, they're not working.
You see. But to be truthful, family, I see laziness a lot in our people. I managed a project, and for the project I had to bring in people from the agency, from the labor agency, temp agency, and I have guys that come in there, black guys come in there. Yes, I understand. Listen, I understand that when you're working for a temp agency that they're not paying you nothing. Okay? And because of that, and given the position that I was in, and I was given the freedom to run the job, as long as the work is getting done, I have the freedom to make whatever decisions needed to make, and I use wisdom in making those decisions. And I'm still praised by my former employer. So I didn't slack on the job. As a matter of fact, I don't celebrate Christmas, but every Christmas I haven't worked with them in several years now, and every Christmas they send me a Christmas card in the mail. I don't celebrate it, but he's always thinking about me. But
you just made an impact.
I made an impact on him, I
There
guess.
ain't no money in them cards.
There's no money in there.
It's just the fact that he's, he remembers. He made an impression.
Yeah, but I haven't worked with them for years, but he still send it, and I don't respond. But every year they come, right? Now, the owner. Now, but these guys. So I'd call up the temp agency, ask for some people, and these guys would come in, and I've had guys tell me from the door, man, I'm only getting paid $8 an hour. I ain't doing that. And they really think that they're supposed to come and they're supposed to do nothing. But there's work to be done. So who's going to do the work? And not only that, I would even tell them, listen, I'm paying the agency for you being here for 8 hours. But I know the work that needed to be done. I know the work could be done in 4 hours. But the agency is getting paid for 8 hours. And if you get it done in 4 hours, you're free to go. You can find something else to do, and I'm going to make sure you get paid for 8 hours. So what I'm saying to them is, so they're only paying you $8. But you know what? I know the amount of work that's here to be done, and I know that if you work together, you can get it done in 4. And if you get it done in 4, you can leave and you go get some work somewhere else. So in other words, what I'm giving you the opportunity to do is to make $16 an hour as opposed to $8 an hour, because you can do the work in half the time, and that's not killing yourself.
And not that you were stealing.
And-
It's just
yep.
that that's what the agency work requires, 8-hour shifts.
Right.
So, it don't sound like you.
And I wasn't stealing. This was the amount of work to be done. I know that the work can be done in 4 hours, but it's already an established thing. When the company set up the budget for the job, they set up a certain number of days, and what gets done in whatever amount of time, it's already set up, it's already established, it's already a part of the bidding price. Okay? And I'd tell them this, and them fellas, their attitude would still be the same.
Laziness always also reflects in how what's going on around us with all of the killing. If you look at the situation in Chicago with all of those murders, it shouldn't be. If we took the time to just raise our kids the way we supposed to, parent them the way we supposed to, all of this would be, well, no, I can't say for sure if it's a part of the curse. Then maybe not.
Akiki says, when one does not look past the present, their future shall be dim. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, Aki. If you can't look past the present, you absolutely is going to have a dim future. If you have no vision, you will perish. If you can't look past your present and look to your future, you will perish. If the only thing you can do is think about your present situation, and don't look for a way to change it, have a vision for your future, you're going nowhere. You will always be a failure.
It's easier said than done sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta wake yourself up out of that mold,
Yeah.
shake it off.
Now,
That's why it's good to be around people that help you set your standards, higher standards.
here, Yahuah talks about the lazy man again. Just what Aki Keith just said. If you can't envision your future, then you will perish. You ain't going nowhere. So this is what happened to the lazy person. As a door turns on its hinges, so does the lazy one turn on his bed. The door turns on its hinges, but the door goes nowhere, do it? Don't go nowhere. It sit there all day long turning on that hinge, but it goes nowhere. The door does not move. It stays right where it's at. And that's what happens to a lazy person. You are bound, imprisoned by your laziness. You go nowhere. As the door turns on its hinges, so is the lazy one on his bed. Roll to one side, roll to the other side, but you go nowhere. Whether it be the bed, whether it be a couch, is no different. Yes, indeed. The future starts in the present. The future starts in the present. And it takes you making a declaration to yourself, and you committing, and you saying that I'm going to do something different. I'm going to act. I'm not just going to sit by and wait. You see. Yeah. Good question, Akud Kaz. Now the white nationalist rally turned ugly. And they're live streaming this stuff all over the place too. Where she said, wonder if any were arrested or killed by the police, that is.
Is that on the news?
Yeah, well, they've been live streaming it. I don't know if it's on the news. Probably not immediately. Now, it says in verse 15, the lazy one buries his hand in a dish. It tires him to bring it back to his mouth. That's bad, ain't it? When you're so lazy. But you know what? A lot of people do this. A lot of people do this. A lot of people do this, family. It says the lazy man buries his hand in a dish. It tires him to bring it back to his mouth. What that means is, all it means is that you're just too lazy to do anything for yourself. Yes, there is food on the plate. There are opportunities in front of you. Now it's going to take some work to reap the harvest. You're going to have to labor in order to reap the harvest. You got to work in order to get the fruit. But even though there is much fruit, some people are too lazy just to bring their hand back to their mouth. They're too lazy to put the work in. You see. Too lazy to put the work in. Laziness, family. Laziness will keep us from what we should be doing, what we should be accomplishing. We can't allow ourselves to be bound by laziness. You see. We can't allow laziness to become a curse to us. You see. Certainly the fruit's not going to pick themselves. You see. So the lazy one buries his hand in a dish. It tires him to bring it back to his mouth. That's lazy, man. We're so lazy that we want somebody to spoon feed us like we're babies. I'm talking about our people, to our people. Because not everything they say about us as a people is totally wrong. We giving them rocks. Here, hit me. You see? The lazy one is wiser in his own eyes than 7 rendering advice. Yep. A lazy person always knows best. A lazy person always knows best. The lazy one is wiser in his own eyes than 7 other people, 7 wise people giving advice. A lazy person, you can't tell them nothing. They know it all. How is it you're not accomplishing it all if you know it all? You're too busy justifying your laziness. So the lazy one is wiser in his own eyes than 7 rendering advice. Verse 17, a passerby meddling in a strife, not his own, is like one who takes a dog by the ears. Family, if it don't concern you, leave it alone. If it don't concern you, leave it alone. Not everything. We shouldn't get involved in every discussion, every argument, every fight, every strife. If it don't concern you, leave it alone. If you're just a passerby, it means that it doesn't concern you, right? It's not like it's in your house. It's not like it was brought to you. You're passing by and there's this situation. You know, it might be in the context of you hear somebody talking about somebody else. And you know, some people have a way of, they hear people talking about somebody, they don't know what's true about it or what's false about it, but they want to jump in simply because Sue is talking about Randy. And you walking past Sue, you hear Sue talking about Randy. Now you're going to agree with Sue, and you don't even know if what Sue is saying about Randy is true. You see two people having a fight. You don't know how the fight starts, what it's about, but you want to get involved. Yahuah says a passerby meddling in a strife, not his own, is like one who takes a dog by the ears. You know what's going to happen to you when you take a dog by its ear? That dog going to bite you. You see? That's right, Aki. Take a dog by its ear, it's going to bite you. So your decision is going to come back to bite you. Like a madman who throws sparks, arrows, and death, so is a man who deceived his neighbor and says, I was only joking. Some people do that, you know. When they get caught in their deception, then they try to play it off. Oh, I didn't mean anything. I was just playing with you. Says like a madman who throws sparks, arrows, and death, so is a man who deceived his neighbor and says, I was only joking. No, your joke comes with at a price. Like I like to tell my kids, I haven't had to say this to them recently, but I always tell them, you don't have fun at somebody else's expense. You might think it's a joke, or you might want to say it's a joke when you hit that one and now they're crying and you're laughing. No, you wanted to hurt them. You wasn't joking when you hit them knowing that it was going to hurt. And even if you thought it was a joke, you don't have fun at somebody else's expense. Because you know what? Them arrows you throw, them sparks you throw, they might come back to issue you a great blow, because the one you hurt just might come back and take you out. You don't have fun at somebody else's expense. And a lot of strife that we see, and a lot of murders that we see, a lot of issues that we see happens because of something as simple as that. Somebody having fun at somebody else's expense. You see? For lack of wood, the fire goes out, and without a slanderer, strife ceases. So if you want to put out a fire, just don't add no more wood to it. If you want to kill strife, just don't add anything more to it. Listen, even sometimes when people talk bad about you, you want to kill it, you want to make them feel foolish, you just don't respond to it. Yes, they're running around there pointing and they're talking about you. You know they're talking about you. I go through that at work, but you know what? I don't respond. I know they're talking about me, but I don't respond. And you know what? When I don't respond, you know what it does? It lets out the wind out of their sail. They want me to respond. They want me to get into a confrontation with them, so then they can point and say, see, he's not professional. He's not this and he's not that. Now, let me see. There was a question. Let's see, where is it at? When a person, Tada for reposting, Mashpaka, when a person loses his or her desires for life, when would that be? Wait, where did it go? When a person loses his or her desires for life, when would that be considered differently as laziness? When a person loses his or her desire for life. So there, there are situations, as I pointed out earlier, that can discourage us, right? There are situations that can discourage us. There are situations that can cause somebody to go through depression, anxiety, and different things, and then that affects the way you're able to function, right? And then it's not laziness, it's that you really have a condition, you have a situation that now is hindering you, and it causes you to want to just give up, right? That's not laziness, that's a situation, a condition that you have that needs to be addressed, right? So there are real situations that can suck the wind out of you. For example, you can think about the prophet Yahuah when his life was threatened and he ran and he hid in the cave, right? He ran and he hid in the cave. He had what he thought to be his last meal, and then he prayed and he asked Yahuah to take his life. But Yahuah didn't allow him to stay in the cave. So sometimes we can find ourselves in the caves of life because of certain situations, because of external forces or internal forces. We can find ourselves in the cave of life, and sometimes Yahuah got to come, or somebody got to come, and he got to slap us on the leg and say, "Get up," as Yahuah did with the prophet Yahuah. He said, "Get up," because he went in that cave. You see, that's the most dangerous thing you can do too when you're going through something. Even though that's what your body want to do, even though that's what your mind want to do, you want to crawl up into a cave. You want to crawl up under the blanket. You want to pull it over your head. You want to turn the lights out, and you want to keep the room dark and keep the house dark, and you want to stay there, and then you want to have a pity party. You see, that's what your emotions want. But you can't feed into your emotions. You can't feed into your emotions, because then you become truly emotionally sick and emotionally crippled. You see. So Yahuah had climbed up into that cave, and he ate what he thought to be his last meal, and he prayed and he begged Yahuah to kill him. And then Yahuah had to remind him. Some people might say this is insensitive, but Yahuah was straightforward with him. He said, "Hold up now. You think you're the only one going through something? Sometimes somebody got to remind us that you're not the only one going through something. And you might not even have it as bad as some other people. But yet you think that you have it the worst, and that you're the only one going through this." Yahuah crawled up in that cave, and he had convinced himself that he was the only one going through this. And so Yahuah asked him, he said, "Do you not know that I have 7,000 more prophets who have not bowed the knee to Baal? You think you're alone? You think you are somebody super? You think that you're somebody so extra special that you are the only one making this sacrifice?" Yahuah said, "No, you're not the only one. You're not the only one whose life is being threatened. I have 7,000 more living under the threat of death. Get over yourself." Sometimes we got to get over ourselves. Because when we become so focused on ourselves, we can't see anything else, and we can't see no one else, and we can't see the other situations around us. All of a sudden, we become the tree in the forest that prevent us from seeing the forest because of the tree. And we that tree. The only thing in our face all day long is me. I can't see nothing else. I'm so close up in my face, I see nothing else. Nothing else exists. It's just me, me, me. And woe is me. Nobody else. Nobody knows the trouble I see. My wife, I used to sing this song a lot at one point in my life. I guess I was going through something. I didn't quite know it, but I was always singing this song. And my wife recorded me singing the song holding one of our babies. And then now she would play it for me and I'd be embarrassed. She's still holding on to the video too. And I'd be embarrassed by it.
Well, that's what you see, but the baby was looking at you like, oh, I'm so sorry, Daddy.
Yeah, he was looking at me like he was really sorry
Like,
for me. He
oh,
was,
Daddy, isn't
you
that
know.
bad? He was a baby.
He was a baby.
He didn't know I was recording that.
Yeah, I didn't know she was recording it. But I would sing that song all the time. From time to time, I'd sing it.
Meanwhile, still trying to find a way.
But I never gave up. I was still looking for a way out.
That verse that talks about the lion in the street, did it say that there really wasn't a lion in the street, or was it a lion?
No, there ain't no lion in the
It
street.
wasn't a lion in the
That was
street.
what the lazy person said.
So that's where you can find the difference between going back to the question the person asked. The person that's lazy is making
excuses,
to be
right?
lazy, whereas the person that has some sort of depression going on with them, it may actually be a pre-existing medical condition
Right.
there. You know, bipolar or something like that. You know, I don't even want to really speak. You know, I don't really know the full extent of the bipolar, so I don't want to act like I do. But sometimes it could be something real there. You know, that's why they tell you in the scripture, they tell you don't dwell on people for too long that it die, because you'll find yourself going down yourself. So I had to remind myself of that.
Indeed.
A lot.
Indeed. All right. So remember this, family. For a lack of wood, the fire goes out. Listen, if you have a fire burning that you don't want to be burning, stop adding wood to the fire.
So go back to that. What was the question the person had about when do you know the difference between?
So when do you know? The question is whether or not there is a real situation, and even sometimes it might be that you got to get some help, even with a real
You
situation.
seek some advice.
Yeah, you
as to
seek help.
whether you really have something emotional going on that's causing your brain mentally to think that way. It's like the person who's skinny as I don't know what, but see every time they look in the mirror, they see themselves as heavy. You know, that's a mental condition right there. Whereas you're seeing something that's really not there. So that's the difference. Or you know, I mean, you might need some help. Whoever the person is, if it's advice for somebody else, they may need some help. You know, and once they've evaluated the whole situation, then you can say whether or not, listen, I'll pick you up and take you to the dispensary.
Now,
Let's try to do this.
to that for posting that text, Aki Franklin, as always. So this is in the book of what book was this in again? In the book of Kings, I believe it is. Kings chapter 19. First Kings chapter 19. First Malachi chapter 19. Right? This is where Yahuah had went and crawled up into the cave. Verse 7 says, and the messenger of Yahuah came back the second time and touched him and said, rise, eat, for the journey is too much for you. Okay? You need to, sometimes you find yourself in that cave, you're going to have to force yourself, push yourself to get up, prepare a meal, eat, so that you have some strength for the journey. You have a journey. Yes, there's things for you to do. Yahuah have things. It didn't tell you to fold up and die. It didn't tell you to let your situation overcome you. You see. No, that's not Yahuwah's expectation. Simply because we have situations. Yes, they might be real, but no, don't just fold up and die. Don't just give up and die. Arise, eat. For the journey is too much for you. So get some food in your system. You see? And he rose up. It didn't say Yahuwah picked him up. He rose up. He got up. You see, you got to put some effort into this. You got to make, there's something for you to do.
Encouragement came too at the same time.
Encouragement came, but then he had to get up. Yahuwah didn't pick him up. He had to get up, and he had to go get himself, prepare himself something to eat, get ready for the journey. You see? So when encouragement comes, and it might come in the form of this word. When encouragement comes, now it's up to you. Are you going to get up? Are you going to ignore and stay there? That's where it does turn into laziness. And he rose up and ate and drank and went in the strength of that food. You need that food for the journey. Went in the strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights as far as Harab and the mountain of Elohim. And there he went into a cave and spent, this was before, sorry, he went into the cave. But even then, after he got into the cave, Yahuwah came to him and told him to arise. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuwah came to him and said to him, what are you doing here, Al-Yahu? You see? Now, it would be interesting for me to go back and read that entire thing, because it is interesting the way it unfolded. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let me do just that. Let me read some more of it. Let me go over here real quickly.
Man.
No?
No, go ahead.
Huh?
You're supposed to get sidetracked.
No, I'm not getting sidetracked.
Okay. It applies.
We're on the same thing. Okay. So in verse 9 it says, and there he went into a cave and spent the night there, and see, the word of Yahuwah came to him and said to him, what are you doing here, Al-Yahu? You know, family, it is also important to note that sometimes it's important not to confuse a resting place with a dwelling place. It is important not to confuse a resting place with a dwelling place. Yahuwah might provide a place of rest for you, a place for you to get some rest, and then you want to turn it into a home. You see what I'm saying? He provided a cave for Al-Yahu, a place for him to rest and be sheltered for the night, a place for him to be protected for that night. But now Al-Yahu get up in the morning and now you want to stay there. You want to turn a resting place into a dwelling place. It's important, family. Yeah. Now you want to furnish the place. Now you want to do landscaping. You want to turn a resting place into a dwelling place, and that's the problem. A lot of times Yahuwah have more for us to do. Yahuwah has more for us to accomplish. A lot of times Yahuwah simply have more for us, but we don't experience it because we have turned a resting place into a dwelling place. And so that was the first mistake that Al-Yahu made. He went about trying to convert a resting place into a dwelling place. It was not meant for him to stay there, but now you wanna transform it. You see? When he went in there, the only thing that he had was one bed, but now he want to bring in living room furniture and bathroom furniture and install plumbing and all kinds of stuff. You see, doing stuff that Yahuah never told him to do.
Situations that could cause us to settle.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was definitely in a situation.
Mm-hmm.
It was after.
Mm-hmm. He was in a situation and now you want to settle. You see. Yep. Be careful that the situation that was intended only to make you stronger and to propel you to go further, be careful that you do not misinterpret and misunderstand that situation, that you begin to settle as a result of that situation. And there he went into a cave and spent the night there. And see, the word of Yahuah came to him and said to him, "What are you doing here, Al-Yahu? What are you doing here?" What are you doing here? This not your destination. This was a rest stop, but it's not your destination. Why are you still here? And he said, "I have been very jealous for Yahuah, Elohim of hosts, for the children of Yasharal have forsaken your contract. They have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword, and I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." Now that truly can become a burden. When you are zealous about Yahuah, but it seems as if you can't find others who are equally excited, equally zealous, that too can become discouraging.
I'm certain that a lot of us feel this way in the very families that we are in.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, this was supposed to be good news. Everybody was, supposed to hear this and turn.
Mm-hmm.
They had turned on me. They want to break me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm certain a lot
Yes,
of us
indeed.
feel this very way.
It can become discouraging. It can become disheartening. And if you're not careful, it can be the thing that drive you into a cave. Drive you into that cave. You see.
Nothing special about me. Why are you telling me to tell the people all this stuff? Why you not me trying to live this life? Everybody looking at me like I'm funny looking because I'm all wrapped up carrying on. Why?
But you see, that's the problem there. Too many me's. Too many me's. That's where Al-Yahu found himself. He was on the me trip. He said, "I alone am left." He said, "And I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." He said, "I alone am left." He got on that me thing. Nobody else is going through this. It's just me. It's just my family that have turned their back on me. Nobody else goes through this. It's just me. Why me? Why I got to go through this? No, but you're not by yourself, and you find encouragement in that. And he said, "Go out and stand on the mountain before Yahuah." When you feel that way, you'll find yourself in the cave. You got to get up. You got to go out and you got to find that mountain, stand before Yahuah. And see, Yahuah passed by. And a great and strong wind tearing the mountains and breaking the rocks in pieces before Yahuah. This wind came with him. But guess what? Even though Yahuah passed by and then came this great wind, Yahuah had already passed by and the wind came, but Yahuah was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake. But Yahuah was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire. But Yahuah was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice.
Hold up. What was going on right there?
So Yahuah passed by.
No,
No.
this is all of this was to show him, like this happened right in front of him.
Mm-hmm. So when he got out of the
And this is
cave,
literal.
yes, when he got out of the cave, he stood before Yahuah, because remember where he is. He is at Mount Moriah. the set apart mountain of Yahuah. And Yahuah passed by. And then came the wind, a great wind, that it had rocks being dashed and created a
So
landslide.
he told him to step forward out so he
Mhm.
could see all of this.
Yes, Yahuah said, come talk to me.
Okay.
Come, let me talk to you. Yahuah said, come, let me talk to you. Come out of the cave and come, let me talk to you. Right? And when he stepped out, Yahuah passed by. And then after Yahuah passed by, there was this great wind. But Yahuah was not in the wind. Then there was this great earthquake, but Yahuah was not in the earthquake. Then there was this fire, but Yahuah was not in the fire. Then there was a still small voice. I believe that the message perhaps that he was conveying to him is that in spite of all of these traumatic situations that you might have been through and that you're going through,
Nothing don't top this. Go ahead.
you are still standing because of me. It's not meant for your destruction. The wind, it said that it smashed the rocks, created landslides basically, but it didn't destroy Al-Yahu, it didn't touch Al-Yahu. Then came the earthquake that should have destroyed him, could have destroyed him, but he was not destroyed. Then came the fire that could have consumed him, but he was not consumed. And so he went through all of that. And at the end of it, Yahuah was present in the form of a quiet voice, a comforting voice, a consoling voice. And it came to be when Al-Yahu heard it, that he wrapped his face in his robe and went out and stood at the cave opening. And see, a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Al-Yahu?" He asked him again. Sometimes Yahuah gotta ask us again. Because sometimes he asks us once and we don't get it. He asks us twice and we don't get it. Sometimes he got to ask us a few times, "What are you doing here, Al-Yahu?" In other words, this is not where you should be, Al-Yahu. You see. Now, yes indeed, through it all, Yahuah is still keeping him. And so he asked him again, "What are you doing here? This is not where you're supposed to be. What are you doing here?" And he said, "I have been very jealous for Yahuah Elohim of hosts, for the children of Yasharal have forsaken your contract. They have thrown down your altars, and they have slain your prophets with the sword. And I am left, I alone, and they seek my life to take it." And Yahuah said to him, "Go, return to your way to the wilderness of Damascus, and you shall go in and anoint Asael as king over Aram, and anoint Yahu son of Namshai as king over Yasharal, and anoint Al-Yasha son of Shaphat of Abal Mahala as prophet in your place. And it shall be that whoever escapes the sword of Asael, Yahu does kill, and whoever escapes from the sword of Yahu, Al-Yasha does kill. And I shall leave 7,000 in Yasharal, all whose knees have not bowed to Baal, and every mouth that has not kissed him." And he went from there and found Al-Yasha son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen. Watch this now, because there's another message in this. Who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him. And he was with the 12th. And Al-Yahu, 12 yokes of oxen before him. Each oxen represents two calves. 2 cows. Okay? He was plowing with 12 yokes of oxen, and he was with the 12. Okay? Now, where are we at again? oxen before him, and he was with the 12. And Yahuah passed by him and threw his robe on him. He threw his covering, his kanaf on him. And he left the oxen and ran after Yahuah and said, please let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I follow you. Watch this. So he left the oxen. He left his livelihood because he recognized that the call of Yahuah have been conferred upon his life. And so he left everything. He ran after the prophet, but he had one request. He says, please let me go and kiss my mother and my father goodbye. Right? My Ama and my Abba goodbye. And Yahuah passed by him and threw his robe, his kanaf on him, and he left the oxen and ran after Yahuah and said, please let me kiss my father and my mother, and then I follow you. And he said to him, go turn back, for what have I done to you? He said, listen, man, forget that I have cast this covering representing the anointing of Yahuah, the call of Yahuah on you. Forget that I have done that, because you're not the right one for this. Because Yahuah called you, but you're concerned with going back home to kiss your mom and your dad goodbye. You see, when Yahuah called you, he didn't call you and everybody else. He called you. It's not for you to then be hung up on the fact that he didn't call mommy and he didn't call daddy, so now I got to go get them. No, he called you. Let Yahuah be concerned with them. If they're to come, then he will bring them later. You see, but you only gonna get into stuff when you go back trying to bring them. He never tell you to bring them with you, but you're trying to bring them. You see. And he turned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slaughtered them. He killed 2 of them and cooked their flesh using the implements of the oxen. See what he did now? He turned to Yahuah, and the very thing that he depended on, he was dependent on, he offered it to Yahuah. You see? He offered the very thing that he was dependent on his livelihood for. He offered it to Yahuah. He said there is no turning back. You see? He killed a pair of calves, make a meal and a sacrifice to Yahuah. And then the wood from the oxen, he broke down the oxen. Said there was no turning back.
This is the one that initially was going to turn back to his parents.
He said, it's all for Yahuah or nothing. He got the message, you see. And so he cooked the flesh using the implements of the oxen and gave it to the people, and they ate. Then he rose up and followed Yahuah and became his servant. Hallelujah. All right. So sometimes, family, we find ourselves in a cave where I begin to say, Yahuah come, he asks, what you doing here? We bring a word of encouragement, but then it's up to us to get up and to get out. You see. All right. Getting ready to wrap this up here, family. Going back to the book of Mashali, the book of Proverbs, chapter 26, and I'm going to be stopping here very soon. Verse 21, as charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. As charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. You know, there are some men, I didn't think this, but I've experienced it now, and so I know it. There are some men that are probably just as contentious as some women, or even more contentious than some women. I'm not saying that every woman is contentious. That's not what I'm saying. But often you find, you can often find among some women, that they tend to be quite contentious, especially toward one another. you know, catty or anything like that. That emotional gift that Yahuwah has given can sometimes be a double-edged sword in some respects. But I find that it's not just women; that men are like that too. You see, I find men that's like that. You see what I'm saying? Like it might be that some women talk too much, some men just talk too much. You see, in Jamaica they would say them have laba mouth, appear laba laba. You know, them laba them mouth too much, run them mouth too much. You know, um, so it's but and Yahuwah says it here, as charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious man to kindle strife. If you're contentious, you will always be starting strife. If you're a contentious person, then wherever you are, there will be strife because you're responsible for starting it. You see, you're responsible for starting it. Listen, some people, there are people, I've seen people like this, they're always into something. Wherever they go, they get into stuff. But somehow it's always somebody else's problem. It's always somebody else's fault. Listen, if you find yourself always into something, then maybe it's time you begin to look at yourself. Because if you're over here and stuff getting started, you leave there, figure you can get away from it, and you go over there and then stuff still getting started. Then you leave there figuring you're going to get away from it. You go over there and stuff still getting started. Then, you know what? Seem like more than likely you're the one that carrying it. You're the one that's the problem. You see, if you're always finding yourself in something and you keep changing locations and the same stuff keep happening, then there's a high probability, a very high probability, that you may be the root of the problem. You see, again, the importance of examining ourselves and reflecting on the definition of insanity, which is to continue to do the same old thing expecting different results. The words of a slanderer are as dainty morsels which go down with the inner parts of the heart. Goes down into the inner parts of the heart. Slanderer, slandering. The words of a slanderer are as dainty morsels which go down into the inner parts of the heart. A professional slanderer, or anybody who slanders, the word don't come across as slandering. Their words don't come across as slandering. It comes across innocently, appealingly. And if you're not mindful and if you're not careful, you can get caught up in their slandering very easily. You see, it goes down smoothly. Crafty. You can find yourself caught up in slandering very easily. Burning lips with an evil heart are like earthenware covered with silver dross. Burning lips with an evil heart are like earthenware covered with silver dross. Gold-plated dirt. Silver-plated dirt. A hot lip. Lips set on spring, as they would say. With an evil heart is like silver-plated dirt. No good. Have no good value. He who hates pretends with his lips and lays up deceit within him. He who hates pretends with his lips, hate up deceit within him. So you can have a person that's very hateful, but then their words, they say something different, but in reality they are deeply hateful. But they pretend with their lips as if they're not. Say all the right things, but their heart is very deceitful, very wicked, very hateful. Though he speaks kindly, do not believe him, for there are 7 abominations in his heart. Hatred is covered by deceit. Hatred is covered by deceit. You see, so when you have a hateful person who pretend as if they're not, that's deceit. That's deceiving. Hatred is covered by deceit. His evil is disclosed in the assembly. Whoever digs a pit falls into it, and whoever rolls a stone, it turns back on him. A lying tongue hates its bruised ones, and a flattering mouth works ruin. Lying and flattery, no good. None of them are. Well, family, that brings us to the end of chapter 26 of the book of Mashali, Proverbs. We look forward to getting to chapter 27. What I'm going to do at this point, for the next, we'll see if there are any questions or comments from the family, and I hope to end our fellowship here at around 5, family, as I mentioned earlier. I have a date with my wife for this evening. Looking forward to going to see the movie a little bit later, Detroit. All right. Let me see. Family, any comments or questions from the Mashpaka?
Hakeem,
Yes, shalom to you, Aku.
shalom, Ashika. I had a question. I don't think you saw it last week, but I wanted to ask. We speak and talk all throughout the week on things. Yahuah was loving so much. His ways, his scriptures, everything is just always so delicious that we always incline a very keen ear to your teaching. We don't expect you to know everything, but I wanted to ask, since the slave trade didn't start until after Yasharal and Yahudah separated, that is 10 and 2, what tribes were on the west coast of Africa during the Atlantic slave trade? And does this give any indication of which tribes actually came to Jamaica and the U.S.? And then one more question after that, if you please.
Okay, cool. Yes, that's a great question. That's a great question. It can give an indication, but it goes deeper than that, and I'll explain. So, for example, my studies have led me to information that shows, for example, that the tribe of Yahudah was on the coast of West Africa. The tribe of Banyaman also was on the coast of West Africa. The tribe of Ephraim was also on the coast of West Africa. I had just muted your mic there momentarily, Akut, because as you typed, it was coming through. And there might be more that was actually pointed out that I'm not recalling right now. But so history shows that several of these tribes were on the coast of West Africa at the time the slave trade started. However, while that could give an indication as to what tribes went where, it could, on the surface, you could say that it could, but in reality, then again, it couldn't, because of the nature of the slave trade. Because what the slave traders did, they deliberately separated people. You see, they deliberately separated people, because when Yasharal left after the Roman invasion, when they left Yasharal after the Roman invasion, they settled in different places, and as they settled in different places, even in West Africa, they begin to speak different dialects in those places also. So they not only had the language of Yasharal, but they're also speaking different dialects. And what the slave traders would do is, when they find people who spoke the same language, they would separate them, send them to different places. If they find people who are of the same family, they would deliberately separate them. And because of that sifting, then even if you had tribes that settled together, they wouldn't, for the most part, they would not end up together. So you have family members, you have people, you have family members. If we were able to trace back our lineage, you have people who are literally families, brothers and sisters. You might have some of them, you might have a mother who was dropped off in America, but then the brother was taken to Cuba, and then the sister was sent to Jamaica or to Trinidad, or whatever the case might be. The people were literally split up like that. The people were deliberately scattered like that. So you really can't use that information as some people try to do. You can't use that information and to then say that this tribe is here or that tribe is there. Number one, Yahuah tell us that you wouldn't be able to do that, because when he says that I will scatter you, I will scatter you, I will sift you. You see what I'm saying? It's like picking us up in his hand and just scattering us to the wind. Yahuah said that he would do that. So from that perspective, no one is able to really distinguish what tribes are where. All right, Akut. Let me unmute. Is your mic unmuted, Akut?
Looks like it. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I was wondering, because the West Coast is on the opposite side of the continent from Yasharal. So I didn't expect that all 12 tribes were on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great point also. And but here's the thing that we need to remember too, that the people have this assumption that the people that were enslaved and taken into slavery, that there were only people who were living on the West Coast, but that's actually not true, because Africa had many great kings, and there was one king in particular really great, and you have Shaka Zulu, for example, that was a great king in Africa. But what happened was, these different kingdoms, a lot of them were involved in the slave trade, and they would take people from inland in Africa, deep parts of Africa, and they would transport them, travel them, carry them to the slave trading areas, the slave trading ports. So in reality, it's not just the people that were living on the coast that were swept up in the slave trade, but people all throughout the region were swept up in it. So where the Europeans didn't go deep inland, you had different nations within Africa that would work their way toward the slave traders, because that had become a part of the currency of the day, you see.
Okay. Tada, Aki. My last question is, in this country, there is I don't know, we always thought, a lot of us always thought that the slaves that were more of an anarchist than the rest were the ones that were dropped off in Jamaica. And if so, you with your beautiful and compelling accent, that is just a tremendous asset to the teaching, I might add.
To the Akut. What's interesting about Jamaica? What's interesting about Jamaica is that Jamaica have a mixture of people. You have slaves in Jamaica that were they just went along to get along, right? Um, and then you had slaves that they weren't going to go for it. They were going to fight. That's reflective even today. You have people in Jamaica that you can easily pull the wool over their faces. They just they don't look into anything. They don't examine anything. They just, man, dumb down. And then you have the population, a segment of the population that they want to know and they seek to know and they research and they seek knowledge and they tend to be more the ones that will take a stand. The Maroons. The Maroons were the people who stood up and fought and defeated the the uh, the British. You see, forced the British to make a treaty with them, and that perhaps is one of the only treaties that the quote unquote white man have ever made with anybody that they haven't been able to go back and renege on it. You see what I'm saying? Like what they did with the Indians, how they made treaties with the Indian and then they went back and did the opposite. They weren't able to do that with the Maroons. As a matter of fact, they were too afraid of the Maroons to even think about going back. You see, so they made a treaty with the Maroons. They were fierce. They were fierce fighters. They were loving people. Still a loving people. They're still there. Still a loving people. They'll let you know they love you, but don't mess with them. Don't come with no foolishness because they're ready for war. If that's the case, they're not gonna go out and just mess with people. They believe in living lawfully, living peacefully. But if you mess with them, then they're gonna defend. They're gonna defend themselves and defend what is theirs. Nothing wrong with that. That's the way we all should be. On the other hand, you have people who they just go for the okie doke. And so you have different types of people in Jamaica. And you know, they're just different types of people, and so they're all descendants of slaves, but right there you can see different types of personalities, mentalities, characters, and so on. And while not every black person is of Yasharal, and not every person that was swept up in the slave trade is Yasharal, but many are, great many are, most were, you know. So in Jamaica you have all kinds of tribes mixed up, and you also have all kinds of nations mixed up, just as in America and in any other place, which is worldwide, because the slave trade was global, because it wasn't just the British that was doing it. You have the Arabs also who were involved in the slave trade, you see, and so on. All right, I hope I didn't forget.
Just one more comment, Aki. So Deuteronomy 28, however, wasn't about Hamites. It didn't include Hamites, did it?
No, it was a message directly to Yasharal. That's who Yahuah was speaking to. It was a message directly to Yasharal. With that said, it doesn't mean that when the net is cast, that others wouldn't be caught up in the net, you know. And we find that oftentimes in throughout the scriptures, whether it be in obedience or in disobedience, whoever Yasharal is aligned with at the time, they get caught up in their stuff. They get caught up in their judgment, and they get caught up in the baraka also. You see what I'm saying? So if Yasharal is living in obedience, and a people join themselves to Yasharal in obedience, they will be baruch by Yahuah. Yasharal is living in disobedience, and Yasharal get caught up in the curses. Whoever Yasharal is running with at the time, they can get caught up in it too. That's just the way it is. Guilty by association, I guess, or innocent too by association. All right, I think Aki Damon's flag was up. Aki, please go ahead, Aki. Oh, by the way, Aki Yaram Yahoo too had posted something about Farrakhan, about the two nations in the womb. I hadn't seen that video, Aki. Yeah, I hadn't seen it. I certainly would like to take a look at it. Aki Damon, you want to go ahead, Aki?
Hello, Yahuah, Mashpaka.
Yahuah.
Shalom, Aki. Just wanted to say it was a good study. Sometimes when you hear things and it applies to you, you know, it may be hard to swallow, but you have to eat it. It's good that you eat it.
Indeed.
So a lot of this was for me, and as I continue to grow, I'm still continue to hear things from Yahuah that I might not want to hear. So it's good to eat it.
Yes.
Nevertheless, good to eat it.
Yes.
Allah Yahuah. Praise Yahuah.
Praise Yahuah. Praise Yahuah. Indeed. True indeed, Aki. We don't always want to hear what he has to tell us, but the reality is we got to hear it and we got to eat it, right? In the end, we find that it's actually good medicine. Yes, indeed. Tudarabah. All right. Anyone else before we close out Mashpaka? By the way, I want to say shalom to Akut Mac. I think I see Akut Mac's phone number at the bottom there. I say shalom to Akut Mac, Akut Yolanda, Aki Yaram Yahoo, Akut Yanat. Anyone that I hadn't greeted, Akut Waikida, or Wikida, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I don't want to mess up the names here, Mashpaka. Aki Dominique. Shalom to you all, family. All right, we've been having a few issues here today, but nonetheless, I want to say Tuda Rabbah for your patience in that, in forbearing, family. All right, well, if there's no one else, we're gonna prepare to close out, family. Once again, I want to say Tuda Rabbah to you for the fellowship and for your time, and truly, truly, may Yahuah continue to barak us as we continue to seek Him. Praise Yahuah. Let me just go back to the text here. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any questions there. Think Kramaki Yahakab Akut Sharia. There might be another question. It's because this one says also, as one studies scripture, where does he or she begin? How do we go about reading from one writing to the next? Well, you know, it's interesting. In Christianity, they'll tell you start in the book of John, right? My advice, and I said this earlier, my advice, and I believe our responsibility, is simply to load the wagon, so to speak. So when it comes to the scriptures, just begin by reading. Any study should begin by simply reading. Read, read, and read. Don't matter where you begin reading. Don't limit yourself to just the 66 books that the Christians tell us is scripture, because the scriptures go beyond those 66 books. that they tell you is scripture, and even some of what they tell you is scripture is actually not scriptures. They're just letters. You see, so it begins with reading, and it don't matter where you begin reading. Just read, read, and read. You see what I'm saying? And as you read from a lot of different writings, again, don't limit yourself to only the 66 books. And that's, as you become familiar with the writings, that's where you begin to identify contradictions in contradictions that really comes from error in translation, whether deliberate or otherwise. You know, but
curriculum. And following the curriculum, when you were searching for the truth, and you come across contradictions and stuff, it'll throw you off. So again, I agree with that advice, because you could say start from the beginning. But what truly is the beginning?
Right, exactly. So
the beginning don't start at Genesis.
Yeah, so in Christianity they tell you that Genesis is the first book, when in reality that's not true. The order that the books are in the Bible is not the order in which the books were written. You see what I'm saying? So in other words, they're not put together chronologically. You see, so if I say start in the book of Genesis, that's not that's not chronological. And even the way that the book the Barashit is written, it's not written in a chronological order. The chapters are not recorded chronologically. You see what I'm saying? In other words, the subject matter is not dealt with chronologically. You see, so but some people don't understand that, and they read thinking that, and so you do error also. So my advice there is to just read and read. Don't limit yourself to what they have so-called canonized. Okay. Question on the board about head covering and how to pray for a rebellious child. To the Akut question about head covering. Let me see. Okay, I'm trying to catch up with it here. If a woman, example, Abigail or Nabal, is married to a foolish man, or married, or if she's not married, is she to cover her head, or is she under the covering of Mashiach, Yahuah, Yahusha, and so does not need to? Good question. Head covering, family. Head covering. While Christianity teaches one thing about head covering, and I continue to use Christianity as a reference because we're familiar with their doctrine on head covering, at least some aspect of Christianity. Now there are different teachings within Christianity about head covering, but in the customs of Yasharal, head covering is not a command. In other words, there is no instruction, there is no Torah that says that a woman must cover her head. However, as we study the scriptures, we find that it was an expected custom. And as a matter of fact, Shahul said that Yasharal knows no other custom other than the covering, the woman covering her head. And that's a literal covering. It's not something where the hair is her covering. You see, and we have scriptures that point that out, that emphasizes that. For example, one of the instructions concerning dealing with a jealous husband, or a man who suspects, it might be jealousy, it might be that he's just jealous, but he suspects that his wife wasn't faithful. If that's the case, the instruction says to take her to the priest, and the first thing the priest is to do, let her sit on a chair in the Haykal, then remove her head covering, and then mix water with ashes that comes from the altar, and she used to drink that. But the reason why I point that out is that's a couple of steps in the process. But the reason why I point that out is to say that Yahuah, when he gave the instruction, he actually went into that detail of saying that the priest is to remove her head covering. So if there is not an expectation of the woman to have a covering, because you see, the head covering is a symbol of respect, submission, honor, all of that, right? It represents all of that. Is that to say that you have to go about wearing a head covering all day long? No, I don't believe you have to wear a head covering all day long. I believe your hair need time to breathe also. So I don't think it's a situation where you have to wear a head covering all day long. Coming into the assembly, you should be, your head should be covered. It's a symbol of submission to Yahuah, submission to the order that Yahuah has set in place. A symbol of respect and so on, respect and order, a reminder of order. You see, so but the scriptures does show that the head covering is a literal covering, not like in some places in Christianity where it talks about in Christianity they say that the hair is the covering. No, even Shahul write about the covering being separate from the hair. You see, so yeah, so there is a covering, a head covering, and it is appropriate for the woman to cover her head. When it comes to men, it was customary also for men of Yasharal to cover their heads. However, there is a misunderstanding on that also, because there are only, I believe it's 4 people that's commanded as men to wear a covering on their head. That's the priest, the king, the prophet, and judges, I believe. Priest, king, prophets, and judges. It was commanded for them to cover their heads. Now, other men in Yasharal covered their heads or wore what you would call forget what you call it now, but were covering on their head, more so from the perspective of turbans on their head as protection. These are people that were out in the sun all day long, and so they protected themselves using in that way too. But some people talk as if it's a command for all men of Yasharal to always wear a turban, and it's not. It's only 4 people commanded to wear turbans or mitre, as they might say in translation, in the scriptures, and that's the priest, prophet, and kings. You see, all right. Yes, while doing their work, certainly, while doing their work. As a matter of fact, in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 25, when Yahuah said that he was going to because of the behavior of Yasharal, he was going to profane the Haykal. And so he tell the prophet to tell the men of Yasharal to come in with their heads covered. You see, all the men come in with their heads covered. You see, is what he tell the prophet in the book of Ezekiel chapter 25. So to come in, he said, keep your shoes on and come in with your head covered, to the entire population of Yasharal. And that, among other things, was a sign of dishonor in the Haykal, for all the men to come in with their heads covered and their shoes on their feet, because when you enter the set apart place, you're supposed to take your shoes off your feet. And if you are not the prophet, the priest, or the king, you are to remove the covering from your head. So even in the book of Ezekiel chapter 25, it highlights, it shows that. I believe it's chapter 25 or 24, somewhere around there. All right. Now, as far as children, and dealing with disobedient children, you know, we have a responsibility to pray for our children and to seek to guide them, seek to lead them, and to instruct them. And as long as they're minors under your roof, there should be an expectation, there should be a standard set in the house whereby they're expected to abide. And if they don't abide by them, then there must be consequences for them not being obedient. And the consequences can range. And if the situation is so bad, I know we don't want to give our children over to the wicked, but if you have a situation where a kid is so terrible that it presents that you might feel threatened by their presence in your house, you might have to get the authorities involved, you see, if it's that bad. But hopefully it's a case where, you know, it's not so bad, and you let them know, you know, if you're going to continue to live in this house, we have expectations, and as long as you are a minor, you're expected to abide by these conditions.
Remember back in the day, we had aunties and uncles that if you was cutting up, they could send you down there to them. They'll work you to death. They'll be so strict on you. You'll be wanting to come home and appreciate your family.
Yeah.
They make you work hard. You know, you get around my Uncle Johnny and all of them, man, I'll never forget. That's when I learned say good morning. You know, you just come waddling downstairs like, you know, I'm ready for the world. Hold up. He said, hold up. Did I sleep with you last night? And I looked up at him like, no, you didn't. And my grandma said, girl, that means say good morning. I said, good morning. I ain't never had to go through that embarrassment again. You know, but back in the day, the older people, they taught you that, you know. When I went to my great-grandma, my great-aunt's house in New York, you better not leave that room and not make that bed and get fully dressed and come downstairs, and she had a spread for you. Juice, milk, tea, like the whole table was set. You know, you had to sit there and eat and ask to be picture moved. What is this? Go back home and eat cereal in front of the TV and watching cartoons. You know, older people was different. You know, that'd be nice if we could send them to them.
Yeah, and you know, like a key Haykal Sharia says, today kids threaten their parents with turning them to the authority. And you know what you do if you have a kid that's like that? Well, number one, yeah, we told our kids, you go ahead and call them. When
No,
they
I called them.
Oh yeah, we did too, and they didn't want to come.
Man, we give you counseling. No,
Yeah.
come get them.
No, we called them and told them come get them,
Come get them.
but they didn't want to come. But if that's the case too,
They went to the mall stealing, and the cop called me. I said, keep them, ma'am. It is Thanksgiving weekend. Good. I hope y'all got a good meal for them. And then they called me a couple more times. And I'm not coming to get this. And man, we can file charges on you. Well, in that case, I'll be there. I said, keep them.
but you know, but if that's the case too, I seen the Dr. Phil show on the other day, and this lady and this man, you know, husband and wife, they have these kids, and these kids they have terrible tantrums, like man, they were terrible. Yeah, I don't know, they have some kind of issue going on, but in my house, I don't care what kind of issue you have, you're going to learn to bring that in. Now, if it's a situation where you're threatening to call them, what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start recording your actions. And I'm going to start building a case against you, because you're building one against me, you see. And the last thing's going to happen is you're going to lie on me, and I find myself locked up because of your lies. And so I'm going to begin to document If you have a kid that you know is going to lie on you, you got to begin to document those occurrences to protect yourself, and and be upfront with the system, because when our boys, the older ones, when they started acting up, you know, and they were talking about um, I don't know, did they? No, they never threatened to call nobody.
No, they had aligned themselves with some other adults in the
Mhm.
family
Yeah.
who thought we were too strict.
Yeah.
So that's how our boys
Yeah.
really got out of control, because they had the help of some adult
People
family
who should have been
members.
grown,
But
but
at the same time, when the child ran away and I told his people, don't let him in, I'm going to call the cops on you, they let him in anyway. Months later, they said they wanted to punish them for a little while by sending them back home. I said, you won't send him here.
Mhm.
He's yours, remember?
Yeah.
I told you don't let him in, and you did. Now you going to deal with it. You won't punish him by sending them back to me.
to the Rabba Kud Amuna to the to the yes, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'll not be, if I'm too late, she'll fall asleep on me. And we won't be going anywhere.
Stop it. We'll fall asleep together, darling. Right on the couch in front of the TV.
Yeah.
Until we're summoned for some juice. We have bosses around here. They're
Yeah.
smaller than us.
All right, now I'm gonna take one more question from Akut Wakita. Where is Akut? Oh, there was another hand up, Keith. I don't know who was up first. Keith, go ahead, Aki, and then I'll go to Akut Wakita, and then that we're gonna wrap it up, so we can get ready, get prepared.
Can't wait to hear what you want to say.
Go ahead, Aki.
Shalom, Akeem.
Shalom to you, Aki.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
And I know you talked about this before, and this is dealing with marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, I mean, just correct me as I go along.
Okay.
Now, I understand if someone is married and one spouse's eyes has been opened and the other one hasn't,
Mm-hmm.
and the other spouse whose eyes are blinded decided that he or she do not want to follow Yahuah, they have the right to leave. And also, in the eyes of Yahuah, they are not considered married. Is that correct?
Yes, because more than likely too, you were married under pagan customs, right? Which isn't according to the ways of Yahuah.
Okay. Now that's question number one. These three questions all dealing with marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the second question is, if two people of the house who are not married in captivity, but they go to Yahuah or to the house and they present themselves as a couple. I ain't talking about, having sex to be consummated.
Right.
I'm talking about they saying to Yahuah, okay, Yahuah, this is the woman I desire to marry, and she desires to marry me, and is that acceptable? Or do we have to get married according to the land of captivity to be accepted in Yahuah's eyes as correctness?
No. But the only problem is in being in captivity. So you don't have to be married. Certainly, the expectation from Yahuah is not to be married according to the customs of your captivity. For example, let me just say this very quickly. According to the laws of the land, you have to ask the government permission to be married, and that's against the instructions of Yahuah. We find that nowhere in the scriptures. It is, if you're going to ask anybody permission, it's going to be the father of the bride, and so their thing is totally backwards in every kind of way. Marriage in this society is backwards, but so we don't have to go asking them permission, and in Yahuah don't expect for us to ask them permission. But there are, because we're in captivity, there are certain legalities that we are bound by if we're really if we and it's important for us to for the protection of our spouse, of the people that we love, then to a certain extent, then we have to abide by certain rules of this land. So unless we go and make it formal with the government, which you don't have to go to a pastor, you don't have to go nowhere, taking no oath in no name of no idols. You can go to a city hall, even I believe justice of the peace, and you can make it official on their record to protect your loved one, to protect your spouse when it comes to financial matters, benefits, and different things like that. And so you will need to do that to protect the one you love, unfortunately, because the society that we live in is not simply going to accept an agreement made between two people as we would in our land. So for that reason, then we'd have to go and make it formal.
Even if you were to get sick and you couldn't speak for yourself,
Right.
and you've been with your wife for, eons, and you want her to handle those matters for you, if she doesn't have proof,
Right.
then your family could step in, your mother and your father could step in
Mhm.
and make, provisions for you.
Yeah.
Or however.
Right. Indeed.
Okay, Keith, so with that said, so basically in the eyes of Yahuah, again, correct me if I'm wrong.
Mhm.
So basically in the eyes of Yahuah, when I said the eyes of Yahuah, I'm talking about his word.
Yeah.
So basically in the eyes of Yahuah, when two people in the house decide that they want to marry each other, it's not a necessity for them to go in the land of captivity to get married, only for benefits for that side of the land of captivity.
Right.
Is that correct?
That is indeed correct, Taki.
Okay, so here's the last question.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a couple that of the house who said they want to be together in the eyes of Yahuah, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in this land, they got married, but they did not consummate. So since they did not consummate, this individual, whoever the person may be, in the eyes of Yahuah, they are not married. But in the land of captivity, you have to get an annulment or a divorce for it to be over. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. That is correct, Aki. So,
Okay, ta-da. I appreciate that, Akeem.
Yes, indeed. Great.
And enjoy Detroit. But let me say this right here, family.
Yeah.
Get a box, and you can watch all the movies for free.
A
That's
box?
all I want to say.
A box?
All right. Yeah, get the box.
Okay, you got to tell me more about that, Aki.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do this right here. You know what? Because if I buy it for you, that means I need to buy it for the whole house.
Yeah. Yeah, just tell me about it.
What I'll do is I'll take a picture of the box.
Okay.
And I'll just send it to you through Messenger. And, you can, and I'll give you the phone number if you decide you want to buy one, who you can contact.
All right.
It's only $65, and
Okay.
there's no monthly payments whatsoever.
Really?
Yes, and I can't tell you last time I've been to the movies, because before movies come out, sometimes I get them before they hit the movie theater.
Wow.
So and plus I'm a sports fan. Oh, speaking of sports, let me say this, Keith.
Yes.
I saw your post on Colin Kaepernick.
Yes.
Okay, I think where a lot of people go wrong, this is just my opinion, I could be totally wrong. Okay, and I know they say, well, no one's hiring Colin Kaepernick, but I don't know if they know the whole story, because I follow football. Here's the thing. Colin Kaepernick had an option for another year, right?
Okay.
Which is $12 million. He decided not to take that option, meaning he could still be playing today if he took that option, because he had total control. He's not out of work because he want to be out of work. I mean, he's out of work because this is the decision that he decided. Because if he actually wanted to stay in the NFL, he could have took that option, got the $12 million, and then from there he probably would have got another contract.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just going. So because I know a lot of people say stand with him, sit with Colin Kaepernick, but hold up, he's not out of work because they kicked him out.
Right.
This is something that he decided that he wanted to do, although he had another option this coming season for $12 million. He decided, hey, I don't want to do that.
Okay. I didn't have that clarity. I didn't. No, he said he had an option. He chose not to take the option. He could have been playing for 12 million this season, and then after that was up, then he could probably pick up another contract after that.
Right.
Okay. So I thought that they just railroaded him totally. That he had no say.
Matter of fact, the GM, John Lynch, who's the GM now, he wanted Colin Kaepernick to stay, but Colin Kaepernick wanted to leave.
Okay. You know, he's now he's, I mean, that's where I believe we all start. When we left the church, we went looking at the synagogue, looking in the synagogue, and it seemed, I saw a picture of him. It seemed like now he's attending a synagogue somewhere.
Well, if it's Yahuah will to open his eyes, it's all good.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, okay, ta-da.
Ta-da. Okay. All right. Let me go to Akut Wakita. I hope I'm saying your name correctly, Akut. If you would, please go ahead. Hope I didn't lose her. Let's see. Trying to see if we lost her or not. No, I think we might have lost her. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, Mashbaka, once again, I want to say.
Aki?
Yes, go ahead, Aki.
I'm sorry to come right in at the last minute, but I've been a little busy. I just want to say shalom to everyone, shalom to everyone's day out, and I want to give praise to Yahuah for his favor. And the great lesson once again. I was listening to bits and pieces as I've been busy. I just kind of tell in. I'm not going to keep it long. I'm going to keep it short. But at the tail end of Aki Keith, when he was talking about Cal Kaepernick, I didn't know that he was, as far as that, didn't take that option either. But I really believe that it comes, if you go to the context of what was happening to him last few games of the season, and it seems like he was being treated, wrong because what you took a stand, and it's a lot more to it in that. I believe he could have done that, make that decision because of that too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And it's just a lot to it, but because I'm a sports fan, but I believe that I'm kind of I'm leaning towards away from it because I see all the stuff that's going on. It's just a lot of wickedness, and it's a lot of stuff that's going on that is not. It's not in Yahuwah's interest, and I'm just seeing a lot of it, and I used to watch sports a lot, and I still do tenderly for a little entertainment, but I think I'm starting to turn away because a lot of stuff is happening.
Yeah.
So that's I just wanted to chime in on that as far as I can keep, but another thing is. Me and my Shaw is kind of going. We been wanting to buy a house, and we had looked at a house a few months ago, and it was a nice house. It had everything we kind of wanted in it, and it had a certain price on it, which it was like I think it was $79, I believe, and. We was like, oh man, we liked it. We looked at it and everything, and the agent we was dealing with, he's a pretty nice guy, and we kind of feel him because he worked on houses and construction, so he could kind of tell us what's wrong with the house right off the bat. So that's why I believe Yahuah favored us in that too. But giving us someone that can really look at the structure and when we're going to get a house, we know right off the bat that, hey, this is not good. And he's right up front with us. and I really believe that was a favor from you. But anyway, to make a long story short, as we looked at the house, we decided we didn't want to go into there because this was gonna be the first home, and we don't want to go in there that not prepared and get in this home, and then we had to turn around and fix everything we're not really prepared for it. So we was taking our time, and he told us that. So my child loved the house, and I was like, yeah, I know you love this house, but we kind of got to take it a little slow, know how that is. So we did, and once we decided to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna probably go ahead and maybe take it. But once we called the agent called, he texted us back and told us to say, hey, the house, unfortunately, the house has been, someone took the offer. And I was like, oh, and she was like, oh my gosh. And she was really hey, what if the person don't go through for them? We still in the loop? And he was like, yeah, there's a chance she's still in the loop and all that. She was just waiting. So that didn't happen. I told her, I said, sometimes these things that we think that's right for us and is good and may be bad. So she was like, that's just like the first house. So I said, okay. We were just waiting around. And that a lot of times when we're patient, especially when we got Yahuah is on our side, it's always it could be something that's right there in your face and you don't know it. So, come to find out, it was a house that's right, literally, maybe 2 feet behind us in our duplex.
Wow.
That came up for sale. And this house was updated with all the appliances in it. The water heater, the furnace, was the roof, and all the appliances in the house, everything was all updated. And it was like maybe 24 years old, but it's still in great shape. And come to find out, we went and looked in the house, and everything was in there is what she wanted. And she was like, man, it's got everything that I really want. Actually, it's got the 2 bathrooms, it's got the 3 bedrooms, all this. And she was like, man. And I was like, what? And then we looked at the price. It was like, oh, we're shocking. The price was 88, 9 or something. And then about 5 days later, they dropped the price to 83. And I was like, man, what? Well, I said, what is going on? The agent came back and he said the person that had the house had to go back east because they had a medical, I think someone in their family is a medical emergency, I believe. And he said, this house right here is a steal because this person is really trying to get out of this house. It's trying to really get it sold. And I said, man, he said, I think you guys walked into a blessing because this house, she's trying to really get rid of this house. And we threw her another price, an offer, and she took the offer like that. Then not only she took the offer, they said they was going to pay our closing costs.
Wow.
And they was gonna pay the I guess it was a warranty. It was gonna pay that. All we had to pay was $250.
Wow.
So I said, oh my gosh, really? And we just did the contract. We did the contract today with him, and he said, no, we're not gonna wait on the call. He said we're gonna get an answer from the offer tonight.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, tonight? No, we didn't get it tonight. We got it like a few hours later.
Wow.
So I was like, man. I said, okay. And my son was so nervous because I said, why are you so nervous? She said, you know how it is. She said, I'm just so nervous. Now, only thing we're waiting on really is our lender in the bank. I'm pretty sure things are going well because she's pretty good. That's what I love about my child. She's really good on deals. She's really on top of it, and she's timely. and she don't like to be late and all that. So she's always on time on top of that. So that's probably a plus with her anyway. And you know, the banks, they like that kind of stuff. They try to give you all, that's a plus in your credit and all that. So you already know that. When they see that, boy, they gonna throw you all kind of stuff.
Yep.
Oh, get this and get that. Yeah. It's like, no, we ain't gonna get trapped into all this.
That's right.
Yeah. So, but so that's the good news that I wanted to share with the room and everyone, that I want to give you a praise for His favor, and I just pray that Yahuah it continues, and that we the lender work with us, and let everything going on, because the agent said, can I say congratulations? Because he said himself, if we wouldn't have took this house, he would have bought it himself, because he said it was so much a good deal.
Yes.
and this guy's very experienced, and so because he had a guy. Matter of fact, he had a guy the other day or yesterday. We had our second look. He had one of his guys come to take his place because he was closing on another house, and this guy walked in there and said, he said he checked all the electric stuff and all that, and this guy flips houses.
Yes.
He just closed on the house not too long ago from where we live at, and he was like, "Oh man," he said, "You guys got a steal." He said, "I am very surprised that this house got so much updates so fast." He said, "I didn't think this house was very old." And I said, "Well," I was really shocked when I walked in there, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, it is perfect. It really is like." We don't have to get, because I always told my wife, that when you go into, especially us being first-time home buyers, that you don't want to go in there with no furnace and real old and all that, and they go out on you. And the appliances was very important, and that's what one of our agent's guy, he said there. He said the same thing. He said that you guys. This is the most important thing, because that's the most expensive, is the water heater and the furnace and all those things. So I was like, man. So I just give Yahuah all the praise, and I just say Shabbat. I mean, not Shabbat, but I want to say it. I want to say it. Shabbat Shalom, but Shalom. Shalom and Muskahab to all the room, everyone, the Mushpakah, and I'm releasing the mic.
Praise Yahuah. We praise Yahuah with you and for you, Aki. Excited about that baraka, and what Yahuah has for us is for us in His time, and we just got to be willing to wait for Him. And I'm just excited, Aki, about your testimony. It's encouragement for us also. And we just barak Yahuah with you and for you. We give Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem. Well, family, we're going to get ready to end this. Like I said to you, I have a date with my wife to go to the movies. Don't go to the movies a lot. Don't watch a whole lot of TV myself personally. But this movie, Detroit, it's a movie. There are a few movies that I go to see. The last movie I went to see was The Birth of a Nation, and movies like that I support. I believe in supporting them because they get knocked down, and they don't get enough support. Unfortunately, the people that should support them don't support them enough, as much as they should, and other people are fighting against them, trying to keep these truths hidden. And so movies like this, I support them. So I'm going to go see the movie Detroit. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Detroit, what the story is about. I'm just going to tell you very quickly as we prepare to end. The movie Detroit, it's a true story. It's a true story about this man, a black man who was a security guard in Detroit. And what happened was there was a shooting, and the police picked him up. He was only trying to help the police, but they picked him up and before you know it, before you realize it, he was being treated as a guilty, as a suspect, as a guilty suspect. Basically, they pronounced him guilty from the door, and then they worked to make it seem as if he was the one that was guilty. And this is something that is done to our people often and systematically and regularly. And when truths like this is being told, I like to support it, because the truth need to be told, because it's not told enough. And so even if the ticket was double the price of a regular movie, I would pay it, because the story needs to be told, because those stories aren't told enough. And so it's a bit of a history. It goes back to 1967, and as I think about that movie and I think about the story of the movie, I also reflect on the fact of the condition. You see, we live in a repetitive cycle right now, a repetitive destructive cycle, where our people are destructive toward one another, and their environment and everything like that. But I want you to know that didn't just happen. You see what I'm saying? We didn't just start behaving like this for no reason, but it was planned, it was implemented, it was forced upon us, and conditions were set to create the kind of outcome that we see today. Even though government and people want to pretend as if they don't understand why these things are happening, how we got here, they did it. They implemented it, they planned it, they carried it out, they established the ghettos. And the movie Detroit brings out some of this, and so I believe in supporting stories like that getting out, being told, because our people still are ignorant concerning these facts. And so looking forward to go seeing it. All right, family, we're gonna get ready to close out. I hear you. Thank you, family. Tuda. All right, Abba Yahuah, we thank and praise you for this time. Praise you for our mashpaka. Father, we praise you for the love that is present among our people here, Father. And we pray that you would continue to barak us and to keep us and to lead and to guide us. Help us to continue to seek you with our whole heart, and may you continue to feed us as only you can. We ask for your barakah upon every household represented. Father, we pray that you would be with us, watch over us, and keep us, and bring us together safe and secured once again. Allahu Yahuah. Amen. May Yahuah barak you and keep you, family. May Yahuah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuah cause his face to shine upon you and give you shalom. May the name of Yahuah be upon you. Allahu Yahuah. Love you all, mashpaka, and with that, we are going to close out today. Shalom. Shabuah Tub, family, which is to say, have a great week. And Leila Tub to you also. Shalom, everyone.